Punani Mommy says, is Kamaka as dumb in person as he sounds on his podcast? You're like more like traditionalist.
Old school. I'm very old school.
You're like Kula
yes.
Kahiko and I'm like Kula Awana.
Yes.
Generational trauma.
Generational trauma. I really, truly, deeply believe that my purpose here in this time on this earth is to soak up all of the Ike Hawaii I can and just be that conduit to push it on to the next generation. I'm so tired of dismantling these sovereignty arguments online. So it's refreshing to get a chance to like come on a big platform and talk about these things. This is a great example of how discourse between Hawaiians can happen in like a productive, respectful way. I have a whole new respect for you, I have to say, after today. Really, truly.
I appreciate that.
For this space.
Velina Maikako, welcome to Keep It Aloha, a podcast that keeps it aloha by planting huli, eating huli chicken, and wanting to huli the system. I'm your host Kamaka, and the huli I am most familiar with is huli maka flip. That was my whole childhood. Okay, let's huli the page and tell you about our awesome guest today. But before we introduce her, I gotta remind you to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/kamakadias to become a part of our Patreon Ohana for as little as $3 a month. You can get exclusive behind the scenes content and listen to the uncut episodes before they are even released to the public. If supporting this podcast with money is not for you, but you still love listening to us, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It would mean the world to us. Okay, let's introduce our guest for today. Our guest today is a native Hawaiian femalepreneur from the island of Oahu. She is the founder, owner, and operator of Moonkind Things, which is a business that creates products and appropriately captures the Hawaiian lifestyle, enhances awareness, and sparks joy for Olelo Hawaii to get more people talking about / in Olelo, to malama our community and Aina as they malama us. This mother and cultural practitioner strives to keep her culture and language alive by being the best steward of this place and cultural resources. I am so excited to talk stories with her today. Her name is Emma Koa. Aloha, Emma. Welcome to the Keep It Aloha podcast. How are you doing?
Aloha nui kako. Mahalo for having me on. I'm so excited to be here today.
Yes, I'm so happy that you're here. I've been seeing your stuff on Instagram because of your business, Moonkind Things. And recently, because some of the posts of the podcast, I saw another one of your posts, very educational, which I loved. And I decided to reach out and get you here so we can talk stories, because I think social media is such a... If you see something you don't like, you automatically voice your opinion and you have a very strong stance of it. And you try to talk to people in the comments, but because of the comment section, you don't really have emotion, intonation. A lot of things go over people's head, and it creates a lot of misunderstanding. So I believe, and I love just one-on-one conversations and getting to know somebody and then trying to understand where they are coming from. So that's why I'm really excited to have you here, and also looking into your story as well. It's super interesting. And you have a Hawaiian language background as well, Olelo Hawaii. So I know we're going to talk about some really good things. So before we get into all of that, I'd like to start my kino himai from the beginning. Where are you from? Where you grad? And what was it like growing up?
Okay. Velina mai me ke aloha. I am Emma Koa, like Kamaka said. I'm from Waimanalo. I was born and raised in Waimanalo my whole life. Lived on Hawaii Island for a few years while I was going to Kulanui, and then graduated from Kulanui and stayed there for a while because I just totally fell in love with Hawaii Island. I got pregnant with my daughter and then decided to come home to be with Ohana. So we are back in Kaneohe these days, soon to be back on Hawaii Island. So we've been bouncing back and forth for a little bit. My dad is the Hawaiian in our family. So I grew up with like a very strong, tutu papa cousins, my dad being the cultural practitioner of our family, that kind of foundation. My mom is hapa haole, half haole, half Japanese, like from Japan kind. So grew up with lots of culture in our house and lots of different perspectives in our home for sure. I've always been a very ku'e person from the start, and I can definitely thank my dad for that. He is, if you know my dad, you know. And people are always very surprised to find out that I actually went to Kamehameha schools. I graduated from Kapalama. I went there for majority of my schooling, except for 2 periods where I was asked to leave for a little bit and then I came back. But that's a whole nother story for another time. But so I actually attribute a lot of my ku'enes to going to Kamehameha and growing up in a school that was, it's really conflicting because it's a Hawaiian school, but it's got this really strong Christian foundation, which if you look into the Christianity history of everything that has happened here in Hawaii with Hawaiians, it's very confusing and contradicting, especially for a little kid that's 5 years old in kindergarten, learning like this about Na'akua, but then this about Keakua, and trying to make sense of that is kind of where a lot of my cultural identity comes from. And that ku'enes was that time at Kamehameha for sure.
So you ended up graduating from Kamehameha.
Yes, so I graduated from Kamehameha, and then I think I went to Manoa for a semester, and I immediately said, this is not for me. And so I went to UH Hilo, where I had some connections, some friends, some ohana, and just really fell in love with the place and the kumu and the... I saw this really great quote the other day about how the college isn't going to give you the education as a Hawaiian that you want, but it will give you the opportunities to get to the places that you want, to get to mentorships, to get to kupuna community opportunities. Yeah. So I thought that was really good for us to remember as we all journey on our own academic journeys.
Yes, I love that. And when you were at Kamehameha, were you taking Hawaiian language courses? Did you grow up with it? Did anyone in your family speak it?
Yeah. I've always been very... it's always been like since I was 5 or 6, seriously, kindergarten, first grade, I knew I wanted to be a kumu olelo Hawaii, a kumu ike Hawaii. So my whole life, even from the kinds of classes I picked in middle school and high school, were all classes that I knew would lead me to that lifestyle of ike Hawaii. So I went as far as we could in our Hawaiian language at Kamehameha, which even meant taking like a couple years of summer school to get extra credits to make it to Hawaiian 6. I took all of the Hawaiian language medium courses that they offered. So they had like Hawaiian history and Hawaiian language. I took a bunch. I was in Ku'i Club, literally everything Hawaiian that they had to offer. I was jumping on it. I was starting it. I was helping to, get these things available for our student population by the time I was leaving. Yeah.
So when you decided to go to Hilo, what did you study over there?
Hawaiian studies at UH Hilo, yeah.
And Kahakaula. And was it like, were some classes in Olelo Hawaii? I don't know how it works there.
Yeah. So, your basic classes, I think I actually was able to place directly into Hawaiian 301. So I didn't have to do the lower level Olelo Hawaii Papa, but those are probably a little more English instructed, but the courses I taught were all in Olelo Hawaii, and just really opened up my eyes to what a Hawaiian academic space within a Western institution could look like. Because even as a teacher myself, so I've gotten my teacher's license. I've taught in Hawaiian public charter schools. I've been in many different schools as a grant educator and stuff like that. And I've definitely kind of seen the differences that between our public schools, our charters, our private schools. And so it's really interesting from a teacher perspective. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what are the biggest differences? I mean, I went public charter school my whole
Okay. So
life.
He did go to public charter school, everybody. Where did you go to school, Kamaka?
I'm not private school.
You went to a private school?
No, I said not private school.
Oh, not private school. Okay. So he went to a charter.
From Hilo, Hawaii. I went to Punanaleo Hilo, Ka'umeke Ka'el, and then Kekulo Navio Kalanio Pu'u. So a lot of my teachers are probably some of your teachers at Kahakaula. So my mom worked for Keiki Kawaiʻaia at Halekua Mo'o growing up. And then, Pila Wilson.
Yes, he was that funny guy.
So funny. Terrible handwriting. Great mind.
Yes.
Kumu Kamana. She's our Kumu at Navio Kalanio Pu'u.
Mahalo for her.
So like a lot of those people, they were like
your moms, your second moms, really, in Kula Kaiapuni and in that charter school setting.
So I was like in the second decade of like the whole Hawaiian immersion kind of renaissance.
Well, it's really interesting to me then, that I went to somewhere like KS and then I'm like this exact opposite Ku'e baby. And then that you went to somewhere like with this extensive Kula Kaiapuni background and not to say that you're not a Ku'e person, but I would say that sometimes, our stances are almost like flip-flop than what you would expect.
I think I quit in different ways. Like my life is really unorthodox. Like after, like I never go. I was never on like this normal path of like what people do, like from Hilo. Like a lot of people stay there. A lot of people get into drink. They drink. They smoke. Like I don't smoke weed. I don't drink. I don't like do anything. I just played sports. I liked video games. Even when I was at Hawaiian immersion school, I I didn't really care for all like the hula, the olis, and all that stuff. I wanted to do everything that like the normal people were doing. Because like for me growing up, it was like we didn't have any like people that came from a Hawaiian background.
It wasn't cool.
It wasn't cool, and it wasn't like
then.
You didn't see anybody doing big things. Like the cool people to me were the athletes. Like BJ Penn was like one of my idols growing up, because that was like the only guy from Hilo that we saw on national television.
Yeah.
So to see that was inspiring. So, you know, in Hawaiian immersion school, a lot of people start to leave. You know, you start off with like a big class, maybe 30, starts to dwindle down. You got the same students every single year. And then by the time you're a senior, it's like 12 people graduating, maybe even little. So my senior year, I moved to Kaiser. I lived in South Nalo.
South Nalo, he tell.
Yeah, I was in South Nalo with
my goodness.
My friends with the Nalo bad boys.
That's my brother.
Yeah. So I went to school with a lot of people from Waimanalo.
Yeah.
But I moved there to play football and soccer. So I had all of the cultural stuff, the Olelo Hawaii. My dad only speaks Hawaiian to us, so since we were born, he only spoke Hawaiian to us. To this day. So I had all of that. It's like when you have something your whole entire life, you're like, oh,
you don't want it?
Yeah, I want everything else. Like grass is always greener on the other side. So it wasn't until I finished Mano, I went to Madagascar. I lived there for 3 years in the Peace Corps. I was volunteering over there. And when I was over there, I had this strong pull to come back because of like all the culture. That's when everything from Mauna Kea was happening. I would see people getting arrested, like uncles, aunties, like some of my past kumus. So that really, you know, was really eha in my pu'uvai. So I felt like really disconnected. So I came back, reconnected, would volunteer at the lo'i at Ho'oku'aina and Kapalai. So that's when I really started to feel more, I had to like reconnect back to my Hawaiian roots. But I was so interested in culture because even when I was in Manoa, even before that, I studied abroad in Spain. I learned Spanish. I studied abroad in Argentina. I was so interested in all the other cultures. And while I was over there and I would talk to people, they'd be like, oh, you're from Hawaii? Like, oh, wait, what is it like over there? Like, people want a vacation there. It's paradise. Oh, you speak Hawaiian? Oh, yeah. Does everybody speak Hawaiian? So I would educate people on these things. And when they would come out of my mouth, like, oh, I'm from Hawaii, I speak Hawaiian, that's so rare. It's like a superpower.
Yeah.
So I didn't understand how blessed I was until I left and I realized how amazing everything we have over here is. So that's like my worldview, because I expanded everything and I saw how other people live, like especially Madagascar, where, like seeing poverty, like
on a new level.
I lived with it. Like I got water from a well. I had a bathroom outdoor. I bucket baths, everything. And like to see people who come from nothing, have nothing, live off less than $1 a day. They're so happy. They don't complain about their life.
Yeah, man.
They help out. They support each other. They welcome foreigners. So that just like totally changed my mind, and that put me in the position where I was a haole for the first time in my life.
Yes.
Living in a foreign country, trying to speak their language, eat their food, dress like them. So it gave me a lot of empathy towards haoles over here. So I just feel like I started to understand a lot more.
Visiting a place, right? Like you were doing with serving. I think that's a lot different, the ano and the intentions that you come with versus visiting a place for
a week.
Yeah. And not just that, but again, the entitled attitude that a lot of visitors come with, that is like, well, I spent $10,000 to be here, so whatever I want on my trip is going to happen, is definitely the huge issue that Hawaiians have. I would say the most like number one answer when we talk about stuff like this is entitlement. And, you know, as you were kind of just like sharing about your journey through Kula Kaipuni and all of those different things and how you joined the Peace Corps, I know that like an echoing sentiment of people when I had posted that story about the displacement from Hawaii, yeah, was like just that our people have to go away to
Mm-hmm.
to realize how important Hawaii is, and that you folks don't, or anybody that feels like they need to leave to appreciate Hawaii doesn't feel fully supported in their
Mm-hmm.
aloha and in their connection to Hawaii. And again, that's all like ho'i kapiko, your own personal relationship
Mm-hmm.
with Aina, and like what that looks like and how that revolves, and the reciprocal relationship, right? So I just was thinking about my daughter. When you were
Mm-hmm.
talking about that, I was thinking about my daughter, and I was thinking about how you were saying no Hawaiian role models when we were growing up, and nobody like kind of making it big. And I just was really thinking of her and how I would feel if my Kiki came home and told me, "Mom, I don't want to go to Hawaiian language school anymore because I don't see anybody on TV that speaks Olelo, for
Mm-hmm.
example, or I don't see anybody any politicians, or I don't know, somebody big
Mm-hmm.
that can Olelo or that can utilize these
Yeah.
skills." And it's like the same rhetoric I feel
Yeah.
myself hearing of, why are you going to get a degree in Hawaiian studies? Why are you going to get a
Mm-hmm.
degree in Hawaiian language? What are you going to use that for? It's not going to be useful. You're not going to be able to make a job from it. And it's funny because here we are, right? Like me literally making a job from it. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just what a journey. And thinking about my daughter while I'm sitting here, and the future that we're paving for our kids. Yeah.
Yes, mahalo for sharing that. And I feel like we're right now is the best time to be Hawaiian. Right now is, at least in my opinion, we have so many people who have a Hawaiian immersion background or who come from Hawaii that are doing huge things.
Mm-hmm.
Because one, maybe because social media, because we're able to share those things.
Yeah.
So it's more accessible.
Yeah.
Especially more resources. But I feel so proud to have that background and to show people like, hey, Hawaiian's my first language. I went to a Hawaiian immersion school. I host a podcast in English.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the biggest, I guess, the biggest issue that people had with the early Hawaiian immersion was like, oh, they're not going to be good in English. They're not going to be able to go to college with other people. And like we have people that have been to Stanford, that Dartmouth, that are doctors, lawyers, politicians, all coming from a Hawaiian immersion background. So I think just showing people that it's possible to come from that, be educated in Olelo, Hawaii, but still function and thrive in a Western English-driven world.
I have such a hard time with this conversation, honestly, because my entire life at KS, growing up being told you have to learn how to walk the Western and the Hawaiian.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, Kamaka, like from 5 years old, I was like nah, I'm good on that. Like I want to learn every single thing I can about, like, truly, I really, truly, deeply believe that my purpose here in this time on this earth is to soak up all of the Ike Hawaii I can and just be that conduit to push it on to the next generation. And literally knowing that purpose from like a super young age helped me filter through all of the extras. I just said, like, I was set, I knew my purpose, and I knew like exactly what I was here to do. So it was really hard for me to hear and go throughout school, and especially a school like KS, which is a college preparatory school, and be told like, you have to do it like this is how you have to. And I'm very intelligent, like not to like, oh, toot my own horn or anything, but I can definitely carry myself in a Western world and a Hawaiian world, even though I was super like, I don't want to, I'm not interested, ku'e all the way. So to me, that says like, actually, we're not all idiots. Like all of us Ike Hawaii, Olelo Hawaii people are, the right brain, left brain thing that they say about by what is that word for two languages?
Bilingual?
Yeah. Me over here. I'm so smart. Also forgets the word for bilingual.
Sometimes it's hard for speak English sometimes. But even English people can't speak English.
Yes.
English is a very hard language. I taught English for 2 years in Madagascar.
Oh my gosh. It's so confusing. It is. Yes. It really is.
But so I think a lot of that comes from misconceptions of Hawaiians because we're not taught, or not we, but like most people aren't taught the actual history of Hawaii.
Yes.
Because of TV, Hollywood, you had the Elvis era and like the hula and like that, the whole thing.
The over romanticization of Hawaii runs rampant today.
Yeah. So they don't know that like Hawaiians were wayfarers, that they
Yep.
were scholars, that we had electricity
High
before the
literacy
White House,
rates.
the
Yep.
highest literacy rate in the nation, not in English, in
Yep.
Hawaiian.
Yep.
In Hawaiian, we had our own currency. So all these things, I think, that's what drives me too with the whole like social media space, is that I would be in college seeing all these people, all these transplants moving here,
Yeah.
and like posting like top 10 hikes in Hawaii.
No,
Look how
geotagging.
beautiful it is. Yeah, like check out this secret local place that only locals go to.
Yikes.
And that always bothered me. I wish I saw more representation of people who are actually Hawaiian talking about what the real Hawaii is like. That's why when I started getting into the social media space, and when I started the podcast, like I want to keep it real. I want people to talk about like the sovereign movement, even though I'm not like really involved in that. Like I wouldn't put myself in like that whole like ku'e phase. And it's interesting because you're like more like traditionalist.
Very
like,
old school. I'm very old school.
You're like kula kahiko, and I'm like
Yes.
kula awana.
Yes.
So like I'm more in this contemporary
And both
space.
have their places.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
But and I like you say, you want to be the conduit. I want to be the bridge between both, like the traditional and the modern, the contemporary, because I feel like
we have to move forward.
We have to move forward, and Hawaiians were innovative.
That's a dangerous game to play though, because people love to use this argument when it's like, oh well, like for example, Mary Monarch, right?
Okay.
Markeli Oho'omalu and his
Yes.
everybody was upset this year. Everybody was on like, how come he never places? It's rigged, it's this, it's that.
We heard it all.
That's a really good conversation to be had. And there's both sides of the conversation. And myself as a hula practitioner too, like there's both sides of the conversation as to where it is, okay, yes, culture needs to evolve. If we stay stagnant, then we're just going to continue getting lost in the sauce. But at the same time, how far is too far? Where's the line? Where are the boundaries? And these are conversations that we can continue to have if, as you said, we are really coming into this place where it's a great time to be a Hawaiian. Like we're not so, well, it's interesting too, because you say that, and I've had this conversation many times because my mom actually brought something up about how we're in another Hawaiian Renaissance right now. And so I was honestly shocked that she said that. And I was like a little offended, to be honest, because like I said, my mom's not Hawaiian. So we have hard conversations in our home all the time about like the privilege of not being Hawaiian, and, entitlement of being settlers here in Hawaii. And so we were talking about how she was really telling me we're in a new Hawaiian Renaissance right now. There's more people, like you said, speaking Olelo Hawaii, getting educated in Ike Hawaii. And myself, as somebody that is like in the day-to-day doing the work, I'm like, I don't really see any of what you're talking about. And it's easy to get lost in the sauce on my end and like forget that 40 years ago, Olelo Hawaii was not spoken in a grocery store and out in public. And it was, awkward and weird for us to be holding ceremony almost in certain spaces. And if you look at it now, in most Hawaiian places where we open up, if there is a pule, then there's also a na'aumakua. Or if there is, there's avenues for, like we said, those two worlds to coexist. And I think we're actually doing a pretty good job. There's still lots and lots of work that needs to be done, but we're getting there. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. And I think that's such good perspective, because there's people on both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And they're usually the ones fighting each other.
Yeah.
When it's like, how do we like come closer? It's like Republicans and Democrats, right? Where I think I saw something recently. It might have been in an anime I was watching that says like, everybody has their own way of saving the world, or they think that they know the best way to save the world.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so good, because that's exactly the problem, is that we're all fighting for the same thing, but we think that our way is the best way to get there.
But are we all fighting for the same thing though? Because I feel like like we talked about earlier, there's two, personally, I think there's two big factions. There's a faction of people who generally are fighting for sovereignty for Hawaii, which can look so many different ways, right? And then that's where the inner scrapping happens within like the big circle. And then there's another big circle of people who are like, no, we love America being here and we like prefer, it's so weird to even come out of my mouth.
Yeah.
But we would prefer to be under an illegal, immoral occupation. So I feel like those two circles are, within each other, they can generally agree. But then once it gets down to, okay, federal recognition or full sovereignty, right? Like, whoa, okay, who's got the politics drafted up? And that's like everyone's first argument too. Like, I'm telling you, Kamaka, I'm so tired of dismantling these sovereignty arguments online. So it's refreshing to get a chance to like come on a big platform and talk about these things. But one of the first things that people always say is like, well, let's say tomorrow America leaves. What are you guys going to do? You have no money. You have no way to get food. You have no government, this, that. But like, that's the group of people that are not part of the group of people that are strategizing, that are planning. And believe it or not, there's lots of circles that have been for many, many years getting a governmental structure in order, getting a way for food sustainability in order, you know? So it's kind of just like, how bad do you want it? And how well are you resourcing? How well are you researching?
Yeah, I think, I will clarify that. I mean, like, people think that they want the best for Hawaii.
Well, what does that look like?
But exactly, right? And then there's the nuances of that.
Yes.
Is like, if me and you, like, we want the best, but the best to me looks different than the best to you.
Yes.
And like, I've had Leon Su. I don't know if you know Leon Su. He's a Minister of Foreign Affairs for Hawaiian Kingdom. Oh. He came on the podcast and we talked about all these things. And like, is it possible to, you know, actually get independence, stuff like that? And he said the first thing is convincing people that it's actually possible.
Yes.
Because that's the biggest thing. Because even me, coming from like, because knowing like so much world history and being like, okay, every place has been colonized, okay, and they've moved forward, but Hawaii, like, for example, colonization, the overthrow, none of that is unique in the sense of history. It's unique to Hawaii because of the way it was done. And I think that's the thing that people don't understand, especially what I notice a lot on TikTok. So TikTok.
Oh gosh.
TikTok. So this
mass miseducation.
Yeah. Well, I think TikTok also, I just had a meeting this morning and we're going over like statistics and stuff. And TikTok is known for having the most negative interactions.
Oh yeah, it's a trolls.
Yeah, and I know that with not even just videos for me, before all like the controversial stuff for me, I would notice on like regular videos,
educational,
or that we would post pro Hawaii, like saying like about the overthrow. Then you'd get like, it would go out to different audiences that don't understand. They'd be like, oh well, what if Japan or whatever, or what if this, or what if like all these things, and I'll be like,
refer them to that infographic I posted about here's all the arguments.
Exactly.
Guys.
But it's what I've also learned from my experience in life is that a lot of this conflict comes from just misunderstanding and lack of education.
Okay, but also it is super, one thing that really upsets me is like, it's not my job as a Hawaiian. And I know, but I am guessing that your stance is something like, well, who, if not us as Hawaiians, and who else is going to educate them? I don't know, but it is not like, they should educate themselves. As a visitor, the number one thing that you need to do as a visitor or a settler is educate yourself, because I am not about to go through all of the effects of generational trauma in addition to being your Google, in addition to being your vehevehe.org. Like, seriously, it really grinds my gears when visitors and settlers expect us to do the heavy lifting on top of everything else that we, and then that brings into another. And it's almost like I mini filter myself these days, because I have really had it with my fill of the whole like victimization of Hawaiians, like Hawaiians crying constantly. And like, my whole thing that I always share is that I'm allowed to complain because I'm a part of the active solution. So I can talk any shit I want. I can say anything that I want to complain about on the internet because I am an active part of the solution. And we have these systems in place so that we can be active parts of the solution. So my thing is like, when it comes to people saying that Hawaiians are like, I literally could not believe the entitlement conversation. The victimization, I understand it. I do not support it and do not agree with it, but I understand why people say stuff like that. For everyone that doesn't know, I'm talking about, there are some comments that frequently come up in conversations about Hawaii being occupied, about how Hawaiians are just crying over something that happened hundreds of years ago. Get over it. You're victimizing yourself. We're entitled to think that we have any claim to this land. Like, it's crazy what people say on the internet. But I know that that's a popular like argument, and I think that it's outdated, it's harmful, and it's rhetoric that like continues to separate Lahui.
Yeah. I guess this is a perfect segue into the clip that went viral about.
Yes.
I think a lot of times on this podcast, I think it's hard to completely articulate things in a very eloquent way because it's like we're just talking
when you're
stories.
On the spot, yeah.
You're on the spot. It's unedited.
Yes,
it's raw.
Yes. That's the best part, though.
That's why we have a farm, because people love the realness, which I understand. But then I also understand. Well, I started to understand, like, wow, a lot of people listen to me. A lot of people care about what I'm saying.
And so that kuleana that comes with that is what people are upset about too,
and
right?
I think like somebody brought this up to me recently too about the burden of being Hawaiian, the burden of learning.
That's Haole thinking.
No. No, let me see again. Let me try to
okay.
What was like of speaking Hawaiian. That's what it was. Because as it's another perspective, because it's like you olelo Hawaii.
Aye.
Sorry. I'm like bringing up like it's general. Like
yeah.
You olelo Hawaii. You gotta pass it on.
Yeah.
There is a kuleana to teach it to the future.
Well, but to me, that's what I mean by that's sad, because the way I was raised personally was a kuleana is never a kaumaha. It is always a privilege. And I know that sounds super corny, but I mean it. Like when I say one of my olelo Hawaii, olelo no'eau that I carry on my heart everywhere with me is ikua na'u, which literally means a burden for me, a responsibility for me that I gladly take onto my back as a privilege to be Hawaiian. And I think that makes me really sad, Kamaka. Like, I think that disconnect between somebody thinking that it's a heavy thing to carry, because I hear what you're saying, but I think that perspective shift is the key to what's happening in this generation. This disconnect is because they feel like it's a burden to be Hawaiian versus, and I feel like I might be one of the last ones of my generation that feel like it's like that. But like my dad them's generation, it was very much instilled in me from them that it's your privilege to be Hawaiian, and it's your honor to carry these responsibilities. And maybe that's why I think like that's, or I know that's my purpose to Malama de Ikea, is because I believe that. That's
a really, I love that perspective shift. But again, so like that's just something that was brought up to me. And so for me, I love perspectives.
Yes.
Like I don't necessarily, so I think one thing that's always misunderstood is I bring these things up as perspective, but I don't necessarily agree with it or believe. Like I don't think it's a burden. Like I'm a optimist, positive guy. Like I turn nerves into excitement.
Yes.
I turn burden into privilege. Like stuff like that.
Yes.
But so I just bring these things up because I like talking about it.
Yeah.
And then we clip it. So like people don't really understand. So like, especially with that clip, like I think a lot of times people hear what they want to hear. I understand because of the way we clip it. And a lot of times I want to tell people like, don't hear what I'm not saying. Cause like I use the wrong words. I use like I can use better words like entitlement, stuff like that. But those things just come out.
But it's still dangerous and it's still harmful.
Sure. Yes.
And I hear what you're saying totally, but I still think that it's really detrimental to our people. And I also hear what you're saying about the views getting the greater message out. I do know that some people had dropped that in the questions, was like the clickbaiting and the rage baiting, almost to like upset people on purpose to get them to click on it, to get the bigger views. And I don't have a problem with that. But I think my thing is like, again, the kuleana that comes with having a big platform, and using language that can't, like harmful shaming language towards Hawaiians. Like, remember that whole conversation about you just need to work harder. You need to work hard to get a house in Hawaii. And like that whole comment section was full of like shameful language onto Hawaiians of like, oh, you're not working hard enough. You're not using your money well enough. When really that's not the big problem, in my personal opinion, about why we're not able to buy homes. It's, all of the effects of generational trauma that we talk about constantly. And like, it's not that deep, but it is that deep, is what I always say when we talk about these issues, because it could be like, oh, you're thinking too far into it, chick. Like, all of like your auntie and uncle that are addicted to meth, like that's their issue. That's them choosing to do so. But people don't understand like the direct correlation between high rates of incarceration, high rates of drug addiction, high rates of domestic violence, high rates of poverty, right? And crime and all of that kind of stuff, and how directly that links to generational trauma, to being illegally occupied. And it's not like we were illegally occupied 200 years ago and it stopped. We're still dealing greatly with the effects of colonization and occupation. So it's really hard. And I feel like the biggest responsibility we have as Hawaiians in today's 2024 is to uphold our kuleana and to uphold community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to people not knowing.
It does. But again, whose job is it to educate them? Is it your job? Is it my job? Is it...
I will happily take that.
But then
kuleana.
What if I have to... Okay, sorry. But what if I'm like, I don't want my kids to learn that perspective, or not my kids, but like, for example, I don't want Terry from Ohio coming here and learning that some of the perspectives that you share and saying, oh, this is Hawaii. You know what I mean? So then the kuleana does fall on somebody like me that does have my perspectives to share that side of the story too. So then it's like, we're doing the work anyway. And then in addition to all of the community work that we're doing to not just ward off and educate all of these other people, but bring our people in and call them in and heal their generational trauma through the workshops we do, and teach free Hawaiian language classes. And you know what I mean? Like on top of everything else we already do for the community, to be asked to educate visitors and ignorant Hawaiians is disrespectful.
Yeah. I think it's like, it's with anything, especially like I think about like the whole pandemic and the vaccine, vax, anti-vax. It's, you get presented the information, and then you do the research, you look into it instead of listening to just judge and to respond. You listen to understand, and you try. So that's how I was. That's how I'm with politics, with everything. I don't choose a side. I sit in the middle. I listen to everything, and then I just regurgitate stuff. But me, I have my own personal stuff that I don't necessarily share all the time. But I feel like, yeah, it isn't our job to make you think in a certain way, to decide. But it's just here's information. Here's information. And I think like the people that for the podcast that listen to this know my whole entire story. I'm literally a peace guy. Like and I always
I'm the opposite. I'm literally
exactly.
Like, let's get this war going, guys.
I'm like, I don't want conflict, nothing. But and I think something that I always have to catch myself too, because I timestamp these episodes. And then I always forget that I'm listening from a place of context. So when I'm doing it, I'm like, oh yeah, that was a really good conversation. And like, oh, if I cut it, like people can just go watch the full episode easy. Like, but nobody,
sorry, but I mean, like, not everybody that hears the rage bait is gonna do the follow through.
I'm never even thinking like clickbait, rage. I don't even know what that is, like rage bait and rage farming something. So I come from a very innocent like standpoint where I'm just like, I don't want to make people mad. Like I don't want to.
But with your platform, you can't do that anymore.
And it's all a learning lesson. What I'm realizing, like, wow, I look at the power that I have.
Well, okay, so then that leads us into our amazing conversation about accountability, right? Because, for example, like, well, you can't do that anymore. Like, make aloha. I'm not out here telling you, kamaka, you cannot do this or you can't do that. But like, make aloha as a fellow Hawaiian, and as a fellow Hawaiian that does have a platform too. Like, we have to be better. You know, we have to hold each other accountable. And you take it in such grace too, because that's another part of the accountability process, is when somebody holds us accountable, do we freak out and say, oh my God, you hurt my feelings. I'm so ashamed. My ego is triggered. I'm going to go hide behind my anger. Or are we saying, wow, you know what? I'm going to check myself, check my energy, check how I'm coming, and like resettle some things for myself. Like the accountability in the community is so important right now.
Yeah. And I think that goes on both sides, in like the just us as influencers and social media people in real life who are maybe I hope I'm saying this in the correct, like who are kind of like leaning more into like the victim mentality, because I think two things can be true at once. You know, everything, like I don't think it never came off in the clip. Like, I believe Hawaiians are entitled to it. Like, what is Hawaii without Hawaiians? You know, leave Hawaii for Hawaiians. I'm like, oh, so it's funny because like all these people are saying these things about me, but I'm like, but I agree with you. I'm just like bringing this up. I didn't say it in the best way, but like we're on the same side, and which is something that I feel like is always misunderstood. Like you see, I don't know,
but people are really sensitive and easy to trigger. And I don't mean all people. I mean, Hawaiians, we're hurt, we're sad, we're angry, and we're rightfully so. And like the hurt, and what we forget too is like the hurt and the anger are sacred. And like those emotions are things that we need to work through too. Sidebar, sorry, this is like my generational trauma healing.
Go.
But I think that it's important for us to work through all of those things so that we don't attack other Kanaka like that. And because what I'm seeing being here face to face with you is that Kamaka the dude is totally different than Kamaka the podcast host. And
well, in the clips,
yes,
because the full episode, people most time you get the context.
Yes, and they understand the full gist of it. So yeah, I think understanding the full gist of it. But then in today's world where a TikTok is 3 seconds long, you know, it's hard to find and catch and really put out meaningful content sometimes. That's going to make a difference when it's like everybody has the attention span of a rat, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest lessons that I'm learning is that I am a very empathetic person, but I have to show more empathy because you get to a point like I grew up with this whole community. Like I understand.
Yeah.
So get to the point where I'm just like, I'm hearing these things and I don't want to voice it, but you get to a point where like, oh, I'm just going to say it because I don't care what people think about me because I know I'm coming from a place of like
solid in your foundation.
But like, it doesn't come off as that. And then I'm like, oh, well, I don't care what people think about me. But then, so I was just having this conversation with our sponsors and whatever, because they asked me about these things. And I'm like, I think my biggest problem recently is that I don't care. Like I haven't been caring. Like I don't care what people think. I don't care if people want to say mean things about me. But then now I'm realizing like, wait, I do need to care. I do need to care because these things are affecting people and not even me, like my family members, my sisters, like, Kamaka, why you always got to do this?
Oh my God,
like,
yes.
Everybody's sending me these clips and I'm like, I don't care.
That happens to me all the time. And I honestly, I have to frequently jump on and say, guys, what I say is me. It's not my partner.
We need like that disclaimer. Like none of what we say
represents anyone else besides ourselves because literally I feel so bad for it. That's the only time I ever feel bad for the things that I say because I be running my mouth on the internet, and in real life, you know, I'd be running my mouth both times, but is when it gets other people involved and they're like, oh, well, and it's just weird to me. Like nobody is controlling what you or I say. Why would they have any say?
And like, we're all adults. Yeah. And like, cause me, like I'm read the 4 agreements. I'm like, don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions. So I'm just like, well, a lot of the videos I see, people are just making assumptions, especially with the sponsor stuff where we could get into. And I just feel like I just want to understand everybody. Like even like you're posting like, oh, this is such a good post, such a good perspective. And then I would comment like,
I know.
And then people are like, do you know like this post is about you? I'm like, yes,
yes, I know.
And I like
it. It's a good conversation to have.
Yeah. And I just don't think people, so I compartmentalize everything. So like I can be like, you could be yelling at me and saying all these things and I'll be like, oh, but I agree with you, even though I said something else. But I'm not mad at you. That's
what I mean about respectful discourse.
Yeah. And like, I understand it differently. I don't know, because of like, I've had these conversations in person and I'm okay with just like, to me, I don't care about being right or wrong. I just care about different. Like to me, I don't look at the world as right or wrong, black or white. I think of like,
it's just different. Yeah.
It's just different.
Aole pauka ike kahalo ho'okahi is one of the favorite ones.
Yeah. So I think not everybody thinks, because I understand there's like trauma and people are hurting. And just because like I've worked through my own trauma and I've like, what I didn't really understand in the beginning was like, you're so privileged. When people say you're privileged, I'm like, but I don't come from like privilege or whatever. But I think even like
Hawaiian privilege,
but even doing the work to get where I'm at, like having like, I come from like divorced parents, but I still believe in love. I still like I came from the generation where like I would be embarrassed of speaking Hawaiian in the grocery store with my dad, and like all these other things that I've worked through, even like not the insecurities of not looking Hawaiian. All of that. And just because I work through that stuff and I'm at a point where I'm very secure in myself, doesn't mean that I should not be empathetic towards the people that haven't got gotten to that
And
point.
that's exactly what they mean by the privilege.
And that is privilege. Because when people call me privileged, it's like saying you're lucky. Like, oh, you're so lucky.
And
you
you're
have
like,
all
no,
this
I
job.
work hard for
I work
this.
so hard. I sat with myself in solitude.
But the fact that you even had the opportunity to work hard to get to where you're at is privilege.
And then in my mind was like, well, I worked hard to get to that point, to work hard. Like, I sought these things by myself. I paid for my own college. I did all of that stuff. So it's like the same kind of like defense stuff when somebody calls you lucky and you're like, oof. Like,
it's funny because I agree and I disagree with you. I agree because I've been told the same thing that I mean, in so many words, I don't think anybody's ever been like, hey, you're a privileged Hawaiian, because absolutely no, I'm not. But I've kind of in a roundabout way been told that, you know, due to Kamehameha and all of the opportunities afforded over there and all of that kind of stuff. And just like you came from a background, like, you know, living in Waimanalo of drug addiction, domestic violence, high rates of incarceration, poverty, like every generational trauma effect you can list, you can find it in Waimanalo. So coming from that kind of a background, I was like, I did all of this myself, not myself. Of course, it was community and ohana.
Even having just a good support system is great.
Privilege, I guess. And so I had to take a second to check myself and to hold myself accountable and to say, dang, you know what? I guess in some ways, it's true. And so it's really important, like you said, for us to have that empathy for everybody that's at their different stages of decolonization even, because I find myself getting frustrated because I deal with so many people that I need to educate or that I come through that I have to in some way or another, educate. And so I get frustrated and I get tired and I get burnt out frequently of saying the same script over and over again. And I just have to remember that everybody's on different points of their decolonization journey, and they're all important and they're all parts of Lahui too. Just like we were talking about on the podcast the other day, like we forget that homeless people are part of our community too. Like we need to remember that our misinformed, ignorant Hawaiians are also part of community and Lahui. Yeah. And that matters.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many things that I want to bring up.
I know.
There's like so many, I'm sure a lot of it will be in the questions that we have. But one thing I want to get your opinion on before we get into that, we'll take a quick shishi break. So, and I'm just bringing this up because I really want to know your opinion on this way that I think. Because of like, I've lived abroad multiple times. I've seen so many different cultures and spoken with people. I see it as like if these people could do it, why can't we? For example, like if people from Mexico can come to America with nothing, they don't even know the language, they create a good life for themselves. If people from Africa who live in the literal poorest country in the world, or, you know, like top 10 poorest country, they live with such little resources, way less than us, all of this, they can have a smile on their face, work hard, come to a developed country and create a good life for themselves. Why can't we? When they have similar trauma in maybe not the exact, but they're going through their own traumas, their own disabilities or lack of resources, but they can do. Why can't we? And on a way bigger scale, because we're such a small like minority here. So I'm just like, so that's what inspires me and what gives me that mindset of like, if they can do it, why can't we? That's why I'm just like, I'm not gonna complain, I'm just gonna work hard and do it, because if I'm inspired by them. So that's where my mindset is personally. Like, they did it, so can I. But they have way less resources, way less. So what do you think about that?
I think for me personally, like when I hear you say that, it's like they did it meaning they came to America, they probably started a business, they made a lot of money, they got a house, they created this success for themselves, right?
Not even just monetary, but just like coming, like say you live like in the
to me, my dream obviously has never been to like go to America and live there, like, so I'm having a hard time conceptualizing.
Well, not even America, like anyway, like you get out of your situation is what I'm saying.
Take yourself out of your situation and like, make it work in another place.
Yes, or even in your place, like you go from the countryside to the capital.
Okay.
You go from living in Makakilo to owning a place in Kahala
Okay.
or something like that. I don't know. That's just an example.
If they can do it, if they can put in the hard work to do what they set their mind to, why can't I do it?
Or like get the right education.
Because I think my problem with it is the individual is like what you're missing. Sorry, not what you're missing. Like, but what's missing from the equation is the community. Like, what are your actions doing for the greater community? What are your actions contributing to the Lahui by you being successful, or not successful is not the right term, but by you making it and by doing the things that you want to do? How's everybody else making out? How is the community? Because you're going to need the community's help to do everything that you want to do. So if they're all helping you, how are you in turn helping Lahui? What are you pouring into the community? What are you pouring back into the pot of Ike Hawaii, of Olala Hawaii, of Mo'omeheu Hawaii, Mo'aukala Hawaii, right? That's the big thing for me is always the individualistic is what we're super caught up in. And that is the most haole. And when I say haole, I mean foreign, so it doesn't get misconstrued. But the most foreign way, and by foreign, I mean the most not Hawaiian way you could think would be to focus on the individualistic goals and the individual, like how can I climb on top of other people to make it to the top, right? Because that's what we're leaving out. When we don't talk about community, what you're not saying is that behind closed doors, we're going to have to climb on top of other people to make it, you know? So when we include community in our goals, when we include community in our 10-year plan, in our future, and consider how we're contributing, how we are upholding our kuleana, how we are helping to pull Lahui along with us, I think that's, again, that big shift like we were talking about in this next generation is the collective versus the individual.
Yeah. So I agree, but what if somebody's doing all of that as well? Like, what if you're a Max Holloway from YNI?
What is he doing for the Lahui?
But an example, and so say he makes it, he's the biggest superstar from Hawaii.
Okay.
He comes back, he builds schools, he donates, all this stuff. He's super involved. So what about that?
Yeah. I think it's hard for me because a lot of that includes going away and leaving Hawaii. A lot of people say like, oh, my intention was to leave Hawaii, get some skills to help the Lahui, and then come back home. How many people do you actually know have done that though, and don't get stuck in Vegas or don't get stuck in California?
I would like to believe myself. My motto is roam and come home.
Okay. Well, may I ask what are you doing for the Lahui? Like, what are your contributions? Would be my next question. Not saying you have to answer it right now, but like my next question would be, okay, well, yeah, if we've done it and we've gone and we've come back and we've gained all these skills, then how are we using the skills to benefit Lahui, not just ourselves? Yeah, I guess.
I mean, I don't want to. I'm only answering this because she asked me. I don't want to sound like I'm bragging.
No.
Or but yeah, I spent time volunteering in the Peace Corps. Came back, did the race to 50K, where I think I'm really proud of myself because everything that I've done was community driven and is for the community. And
but is it for community or is it for Lahui?
I think, well, I mean, so as in just the Hawaiian community?
Well, to me, Lahui isn't just like Hawaiian blood community. It's like our community of people that are, it's like people that are allies to the Hawaiian kingdom, allies to, like people, to me, Lahui is like, so you're only we're all heading towards a sovereign future.
Okay, so you're just speaking in that, because to me, I say community as in like the aunties and uncles, our neighbors, our brothers, so sisters, like just our local businesses,
local community.
Yeah, well, even with the Hawaiian, I think it's all part of it, because I feel like here in Hawaii, that's what we are. We're a mix of all races. We're a mix of the Hawaiian community.
So all of the settlers that moved from like Arizona and all of that, they're also part of Lahui in your opinion?
No, not Lahui. I'm saying that the Lahui, the Hawaiian.
Lahui's in the community is what you're saying. Okay,
exactly. Like if you do like one of those like Venn diagram stuff like that.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. So yeah, like if I help somebody that is not native Hawaiian, I'm still helping them. But if I help somebody that's in Hawaiian, then I guess it falls into like that
that Lahui
section. But I'm not gonna see somebody struggling on the side of the road and be like, hey, could you tell me if you're Hawaiian or not? Because that's gonna depend if I'm gonna help you change your tire or not.
Yeah, of course.
Because I see everybody as humans first.
Yes, of course.
So yeah, helped Lahui. We created a business called Hawaiiverse, which supports over 1,000
that's
local
right. That's right.
businesses.
Well, but again,
Yeah.
that's local businesses, not Hawaiian businesses.
Yeah,
right?
and that's a blurred area, but we're not gonna only just do Hawaiian businesses. Hawaiian businesses are a part of it as well.
Yes.
Native Hawaiian owned.
I hear it. I just,
Mhm.
my stance whenever we get into this weird local
Mhm.
versus Hawaiian, like Hawaiian, you know, is like Hawaiians start off with so many disadvantages. Like when we have businesses, for example, there's so many things that we deal with that non-Hawaiians don't have to deal with. That are obstacles for us to get there. So just personally for me, I always am like, how can, and I know it comes off shitty to people. I know that it comes off like she's only trying to help Hawaiians or she only cares
Like
about Hawaiians.
xenophobic.
Yes. And I've definitely been called xenophobic, nationalist, racist, all the things in the book. And it does not bother me because I know, and it's awkward and uncomfortable, but I'm always here to put Hawaiians as my priority. So while I wouldn't drive past somebody on the side of the road and be like, oh, are you Hawaiian before I help you or not? I definitely, if had two guys on the side of the road, I would definitely check out my brother first and make sure he's all good before, you know, just like Kamehameha schools. They're going to help everybody they can before. And then if still get left, then they help all the malihini and the haole.
Yeah.
So I think it's just such a hard, nuanced conversation, right? About what is our kuleana to Lahui? How are we upholding it? What are we pouring back? What's the difference between Lahui and community? These are all like great conversations for us to have.
Yeah. And I think it's difficult to try to, I guess in that sense, to compartmentalize like this thing and this thing, and they're all separate entities, which to me, they can all coexist and you can be helping. Like, for example, I also started a nonprofit in December called Hawaiiana.
What does that do?
It's an agriculture nonprofit that's based on 4 pillars, you know, sustainability, preservation.
What does it do though?
We just started. We wanna grow food and like native Hawaiian plants, canoe plants, hula plants to help the lahalaus because.
Okay, well, good segue because I know a lot of people were like, how are we this Po'e Aloha Aina, but we are also
literally have a nonprofit
from Big Oil, right?
Well, so example, Texaco, and it's one of the questions on this stuff, but so Texaco is the only local gas station in the state of Hawaii. They are owned by Island Energies, which employs 90-something% of locals. So they're bought by Chevron, and Chevron decided to keep all the local people.
Okay.
So they employ over 1,000 of people, Native Hawaiian. My sister's boyfriend in Hilo, he's one of the managers of Island Energies, who he's 100% Native Hawaiian, 100%, and also gives back.
I feel sad for him though. But, you know, because they all, I mean, I hear what you're saying about it creates jobs for them, but imagine if they weren't there and the different things that they could be doing. And I mean, it gives them a job, but like for what? Like it gives them a 9 to 5 to get a paycheck, but where's the fulfillment? Where's the aloha aina? Where's the connection? Because you cannot just exist in Hawaii is the big thing we're talking about, right? Like the kuleana of just living here in Hawaii, you can't do that anymore. You cannot just live here and work a job. Like you have to have kuleana that you're upholding.
Some sense of community.
Yes.
I agree.
I feel bad for him. That makes me sad to hear that, for real.
Like, I think there's different perspectives. Because there's for example, like, how do we get around? How do we fill up our vehicles?
I hear what you're saying, but I also
we're not at the point to be all electric.
I agree, but I also don't think that having a big platform and being a Hawaiian and saying I am an aloha aina, but in the same breath, I do take money from somebody that ruins energy. Our islands, you know.
But is Texaco ruined? Because we're not getting paid by Texaco. We're under Island Energy, which also supports people like Tumua, how's this guy, a lot of like local people and supporting lots of local events.
I didn't know that they were all
sponsored
by
because
they
Why are you guys doing a lot of the concerts or events that you went to probably got donations from Texaco, which is Island Energy. Shaka Tea, example.
Okay, but
started from Hilo. You like Sig Zane?
I do like Sig Zane, yes.
You went to Ola Hilo?
I did not go to Ola Hilo, no.
Yeah, do you know the Shaka Tea donates to them? Do you know Shaka
did
Tea
not.
donates to a lot of the local businesses? That
Okay.
my dad we grew up growing
But
mamaki.
you know what that sounds like though? Is dirty money. It sounds like they are giving dirty, this money to be like, oh, we put your concert on, shut up. It sounds like they're giving crumbs to Native Hawaiians to get them to not care.
I think that's an assumption. I don't think we would know. I don't think we would know the answers if we actually talked with them, which I have.
I'm not interested in having a conversation.
And that's totally fine because I
feel like there's no way that they could ever convince me that their presence is aloha aina.
And that's because of your past, because of what your beliefs, your ideologies, that's what you believe in. And I think that's fine. But for me, I think First off, this podcast will not exist without sponsors. We need that. We cannot have any of this without sponsors.
Well, I have a podcast without sponsors. You could definitely have a podcast without sponsors. You just have to work a little different.
Not in the way
to make it work.
We want to, or in the timeline and everything. But it's not that we had other options. I sat with the people from Island Energies. We had the conversation. I seen all the things they're doing for the local community.
So maybe you do side with what they're doing.
Yes, totally. I love what they're doing for the local community. It might not be directly for La Hui, which is what you probably want.
Yes. Well, I think as Hawaiians in Hawaii, we have
but employing Native Hawaiians, being the only local gas station, people probably go to Aloha and Hela and be like, yeah, I'm supporting local. When really, if you want to go support local, you actually should go to Texaco, which is owned by different, which is franchise. I know it's hard to take in, but this is the reality. Like they're franchises.
Well, that's a perfect point to talk about the Shaka Tea part, right? Mm-hmm. Because Shaka Tea, they're technically
owned by Irresistible Food Group.
Who's that?
So Shaka Tea started in Hilo.
Okay.
Where I'm from. Okay. I've been to the met the owners. They support a lot of local farming.
Okay.
One of my Race 50K jobs was taking mamaki tea.
The current owners or the
this is when it started.
Or the old owner. Okay, well, see that I know all about that. But then I heard that Shaka Tea was bought out by like a Haole business owner. Okay, what's this?
Believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. Shaka Tea started. I've been with them to 20. They help support me. They help support a lot of like the local communities. I met Bella, who lives in.
Wait, is that the new owner or the old owner?
This is the owner. I'm just going through the timeline.
Okay.
And then so the goal of as a business owner, when you start business startups is to exit. So I guess that at some point they exit, but they exited to Irresistible Food Groups, which is the King's Hawaiian.
Okay.
You ever had the King's Hawaiian bread?
Yeah, that's right. I heard that. Somebody said that.
King's Hawaiian. And the owner of that, the CEO, Winston, who's a Japanese American, has ties to over here. Like he'd be like considered like a local Japanese guy.
Yeah.
So he runs the Irresistible Food Group, and I probably shouldn't go too deep because I don't want to like speak on their behalf and give false information. But this is just from my perspective and my reasoning why I love them, because they supported us for so long, and just because they were acquired, not going to change, because I met the new people too, and they're all equally awesome. They all want,
but they are Haole from not Hawaii.
Yes, they are. But to me, they still have great intention, and there's just because they change people doesn't mean that
the integrity of the company has changed.
Exactly, because for example, like how many non-Hawaiians are doing great things and care about the community?
I don't like when that gets brought up, because I know lots of non-Hawaiians, and I will be the first person to say it has nothing to do with blood and everything to do with intention. Pila Wilson, one of my favorite kumu who changed my life and put me on the path of Olelo Hawaii forever, Kavika Air, not a drop of Hawaiian blood. My partner, not a drop of Hawaiian blood. And I think that they all have their place as long as they're pulling their kuleana as well. So it's not about like, oh, well, just because they're not Hawaiian, but it definitely is like, well, if you're not Hawaiian and you're not from here, and it's not just are you not from here, but you don't live here. And then on top of all of that, now their mamaki is grown in America. It's not even grown here in Hawaii, because I know quite a few small mamaki farmers, and like even people had written in for comments saying like, why doesn't Kamaka like partner up with somebody like that could change somebody's life, instead of partnering up with somebody that they already have a huge successful business, and they are po'e haole, and they are not here in Hawaii, and they're growing our la'au lapa'au. You could say mamaki is a la'au and they're selling it. And as non-Hawaiians, is that appropriate for haules to be selling a Hawaiian medicinal plant? You know, like you got to think about the repercussions of that kind of stuff.
I agree, but they also do grow it on the Big Island and manufactured on the Big Island. I've been to the place.
But then somebody said that it says like made in, like, I'm just speaking because I also speak from a Hawaii Island mamaki farmer. She had like extensively messaged me before I came on. And so that's why she had shared
manufactured in Hilo, Hawaii.
But that's why is she was saying that it just says that because it's packaged there. So they make everything in America. They do a small little sampling on Hawaii Island so they can say they grow stuff there and they can say it's made in Hawaii. And that is so harmful.
But again, where are you hearing this information?
From a Hawaii Island mamaki tea farmer.
But did you talk to the other farmers that actually grow things?
What do you mean?
That actually grow mamaki for shaka tea on Hawaii Island?
No, because I'm not interested in that.
but there are people. So it sounds like so they have
Hawaiian farmers that work for Shaka Tea that make their mamaki tea.
Yeah, I knew the guy.
Like 2% of their total growers. You know what I mean?
I don't know. We don't know that stuff.
It's like token Hawaiian stuff that they get away with,
or it could be 90%
because we have Hawaiians that say that's okay for you to do. You know what I mean?
I'm not saying it's okay for us to do, but I'm just saying we don't have all the information, so it's not on us to just judge.
Well, but it is on you as the person that's using them as a sponsor to get all the information, right?
And I've talked to them, and I love their integrity. I love what they're doing. They explained all this to me. I don't know the statistics. I haven't had that conversation. I can have the conversation if they. But I'm not a spokesperson for.
But if they're your sponsor, then you should be well versed on their things, right? Because if you're saying if you love them enough to like to stand on business for them and to say and I do. You know, I will stand behind what Island Energy and what Shaka Tea is doing, which is really pushing Hawaiians out of their own arena, and with Island Energy, like really contributing to more detrimental effects of Aloha Aina and stuff like that. So like if we love these places enough to like stand on business and say that we align with that enough to pay for all of this to happen, then what's the kuleana that comes with that though? Like what is your kuleana that you uphold as somebody that allows these people to sponsor you?
Aloha everybody, I hope you're enjoying the episode, and I'm sorry for the quick interruption. I just wanted to hop on to clarify some of the comments that were made in this part of the episode. Shortly after this was recorded, I hopped on a call with Shaka Tea to ask some questions about where their mamaki is grown. I'm happy to share that 100% of the mamaki is grown on the Big Island of Hawaii at local farms. Furthermore, I looked into how mamaki grows and spoke with my dad, who has been growing mamaki my whole life, and he talked with other people. And from our research, we found that mamaki is endemic to Hawaii and is only found and grown in the Hawaiian Islands. So there's no evidence of mamaki being grown outside of Hawaii at all. So just wanted to share that with you all. I hope you continue to listen and enjoy the conversation. I hope you have an amazing day. Mahalo. I think even if that is all true and we are taking money from them, it's what do we do with the money?
That's what I mean. Yeah, exactly.
And I'm happy because I'm happy that it's going to me, and not because I actually care about our lahui. I can put it into nonprofit. I've donated money. I've raised over $10,000 for Maui wildfires through my other businesses as well, that we all put it in. I've been there and we recorded videos to support this stuff. So people can say what they want, but I know my intention and I know what I'm going to do with it. I know that I'm not a crooked politician. I have a pure heart. I'm pono.
So you still stand on like, I'm glad to take this sponsorship and do with the money what I believe is right for lahui.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing as like taking like that term, taking mainland money. You ever heard of like for local businesses?
No.
Or like yeah, like for example, like somebody like, oh, the tourists are coming in, like yeah, let them come in, let them get.
Well, I think it's because I stand so strongly against that's why I have this stance of like.
Yeah. And I get it. I get it's a lot of hurt. It's a lot of past trauma, and how do we bridge the gap between like business and Hawaii and like our cultural stuff?
I feel like that's where I come in. Was I saw like my whole business came from, I saw farmers market Hawaii, and I said, oh, sorry.
yeah, I knew that. I knew that.
Farmers market Hawaii.
Yeah. But
I saw their business
yeah.
and I immediately was like, you know what? I am not okay with them telling the world that this is what Hawaii is, this over-sexualized,
I agree. I didn't like
romanticized,
that either.
fetishized version
Yeah.
of Hawaii. And then if you really dive into the history
Mhm.
of farmers market Hawaii and you find out a little bit about what happened with Defend Hawaii and all of that,
Mhm.
you really see that it is like not what we want to be pumping into our communities. But that's a whole nother story. But that's where my business came from, was because I saw something and I said, I don't like that. And so I said, I'm going to show the world what really happened to Hawaii. I'm going to show the world what is currently happening to Hawaii and what we all need to do if y'all still ever want to enjoy Hawaii ever again. Because it's corny and we say it all the time, but no Hawaiians, no Hawaii, right? Like leave Hawaii for Hawaiians.
Who makes that shirt? I like that shirt.
Brandy, shout out
Brandy.
B Aaliyah at B Aaliyah on Instagram. She is amazing. Leomanes Vanilla.
Yeah. Leomana is gonna come on at some point.
Okay. Got to tune in for that one. That funny guy. That's actually my like ohana kind of. So
we knew him growing up. He's my brother.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. And I think his kid's about to graduate from Navajo as well.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, so like we don't know the same people. But yeah, I think it's really hard to try to navigate in this modern era of Hawaii because like what is right, what is wrong.
Yeah.
And I think we're just trying to figure it out. I think it comes down to like none of us have our
and there's no leaders
together.
Right? Like I don't know if you ever caught that story that I did when I was talking about influencers versus leaders these days. And like when I was asking the general Lahui, who are some of the leaders of our generation? I was scared. I was terrified at some of the answers that they were saying. I was like, oh my God, that is who we are trusting to lead us into the future, my dudes. But the even worse part is that when you look at like, realistically in our generation, I mean, there's some people, but I don't see one single person that could pull together everybody, that could give a speech to the entire Pai Aina and move them the way that Haunani K. Trask did, the way that, Lili Uokalani, for example, would have led our people. And I think that's another huge disconnect that we have in today's Hawaiian community is there's no legitimate, authentic, genuine leaders.
Yeah. And I think maybe that's our generation. Maybe we step into that. And I think that's something that motivates me is because I come from both backgrounds.
Yeah.
And I want to like be like, how do we work with the Howleys? But how do we keep our integrity as Hawaiians? How do we, use guns to fight this war, but while also holding or standing on our business with our own traditional weapons,
Yep.
I think that's like the biggest thing for me is
like you said, that contemporary traditional bridge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's just like, nobody's ever going to agree. We're not going to agree on every single thing, just like Democrats and Republicans are going to agree. But we can agree that we just want to live life in the best way possible.
Yeah.
And we want the best for our immediate community, however you view community.
Yes.
And that's like how I saw the vaccine. That's how I see politics. Is like, you got everybody in the same army fighting with each other. You have no army.
Yeah.
And I think that's
why Hawaiians stay disenfranchised and displaced is because, of course, we always love to use Mauna Kea as an example, but everybody was able to get their shit together enough to be together and come together on Mauna Kea. And then for what? For what?
Yeah. I think it's just an ongoing conversation that we're always going to have. And like I said, I don't believe there's right and wrong.
Yep.
That's super subjective.
Yep.
What's right to you, it could be wrong to me.
Yeah.
So I just think it's different perspectives. If you don't like it, then that's totally fine. You could still disagree with somebody and still respect them.
Yes.
And still hang out, be friends.
That's where you and I connect on, is like we both know that we might be people that have very strong polarizing opinions. But we're still open to hear. I mean, I'm not really open. I'm really not. I stand on what I know, and I'm good on my foundation.
I'm happy you're aware of that, and you vocalized.
Yes, that. And I think that, like you said, just us all understanding each other a little bit more, and both perspectives. Not both, because there's way more than just two, but
it's
all of those perspectives is such key to like Hawaii moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. I think the only thing that my pet peeves, which is what I I bring up on the podcast, but it gets misunderstood. Like even like I had a clip about saying like Hawaiian. I see people using Hawaiian as a title, and like if they're not doing this or this, then they're
Did
not
you see
Hawaiian.
that Aina Momono post that they came out with after?
Oh, I did. Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't really like Aina
Oh, you don't
Momono
like
too
them?
much. No, I'm not such a huge
Oh,
fan.
okay.
But yeah, I saw that they posted that. I didn't know that that was in response to, or I'm guessing
That's what
that
I
was kind of in response because the
think so.
timing was there.
Yeah, because they're like, oh, and it's
And then
funny
they saw
because
my
people like to
infographic.
jump on trends too.
Yes, that's what I mean. They saw my infographic and then they were like,
but
oh.
if you watch the whole clip and you just listen to what I'm saying, I'm only talking about a specific group, which is the people that a lot of it is transplants or like people who use that to like for their own benefit, for like social media, like people that come here to like make videos of Hawaii or the people that like have no like real Hawaiian connection and they're like native Hawaiian on their bio because it makes them look cooler. It's like the same people that go to college in the continent and be like, I'm Hawaiian, like aloha,
and then they
mahalo.
come home and it's like,
yes. So those are the people that I'm talking about. But it's it's really like me aiming a target and then everybody just jumping in front and like I'm not even talking about
you know, when you say it like that, it's almost okay. I hear what you're saying.
But I also understand it's the way it's been edited. I understand. Like I know that the heat is warranted.
And to be completely honest, I know a lot of people get upset that you do that, but like as a social media person, I get it. I know why you do it. For engagement. Like you want people to hear the message that you're saying, which is the whole point of the podcast.
Yeah, I'm not doing it for so that whole thing was a perfect storm because we had an episode and we were just talking stories and we ended up joking like, hey, Kamaka's not Hawaiian. I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm not Hawaiian.
You are so terrible, Kamaka. Everybody was so mad at that. I had so many people in my DMs and they were like,
it's funny because like,
he's not
of
Hawaiian.
course we're just doing that. We're just having fun. And
but
like,
you have, that's what I mean. The responsibility of having
but then
a platform.
that is just like a joke that was like for our audience, but then it reaches more people. And that wouldn't have been a problem if the next video didn't go viral. Because so then everybody people was like, see that. Who is this fucking
and
they're
guy?
Like, oh, he's not even Hawaiian. Why is he saying these things?
And that's why when you and I were messaging, I was like, well, I don't think it's appropriate for me to come on this and say like, I think and give somebody that's not Hawaiian more of a platform to tell Hawaiians, oh, that was another one that pissed a lot of people off was when you were like, you're not Hawaiian if you do this, or you are Hawaiian if you do this, or like I'm just paraphrasing.
Yeah. But, and it's funny because people got to re-listen to it. I never tell people what they should do.
Yes.
I only just bring up opinions.
And people were so upset because again, you know, then they were like, well, he's privileged. He went to Kulakaipuni and he went to this and this and this.
Or he went to private school. Yeah. But yeah, and I was only talking about that specific person because I remember seeing somebody's Instagram saying like native Hawaiian. I'm like, what do you even do that's Hawaiian?
And then I hear what you're saying too about like, I just totally forgot what I was going to say.
No worries. Yeah. But it's like, that one was very specific to a certain type of person. Then everybody just was like, he's talking about everybody. But I'm like, I'm not. And then the other one was like a super general where I wasn't talking about somebody specific. And then everybody was like, they
this is
they
who
reacted.
He's talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Where I'm like, well, I didn't even say like Hawaiian in that clip. I just said our people, which I meant like our local community.
And then I saw that, and then you were like, "I'm not Hawaiian, our people." And I was like, "Who's our people? Who are you talking about?"
I could have been talking about the Japanese. I could have been talking about my Portuguese. So So I guess it's also assumptions.
I hear it.
But again, it's my own doing, and I am accountable for putting that out, and I understand. I'm not going to apologize for what I said because I mean it. I do mean it. And I think two things can be true at the same time. We are entitled to our land. We deserve to be here. We also complain a lot. And I agree. And I'm saying that because I come from that community.
I agree 100%. Yes. But like I said, for me, I'm okay complaining because I'm a part of the solution.
And I love the way you put that.
So if you just consider it around and you're just going to complain, then for what? You know, for what? You're going to grumble. Because nothing's ever going to change.
Yeah. And I loved reading the comments on both sides because then there are some people who are like actually giving some good insight on against it. And then there's some people who are like, I agree, or look at all these people just complaining in the comments.
Yeah, and it was making your point, really.
Exactly, yeah. Which is funny because like I don't think people realize. So like us, like the people against it's in the minority.
Yeah.
Like I see, because even the thing that surprised me on like the first clip that went viral is like 200, 300 comments disagreeing, but like 10,000 likes.
Yeah.
And then
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
just like,
I see that
and
frequently.
then I'm just like, oh, this is just like,
But you know what
this
else
is like
that comes
politics.
from is when you're in the classroom and your teacher asks, okay, who knows the answer to number 5? A Hawaiian will never raise their hand. They have to be called on. Or even when it's not that we don't want to help or that we don't want to participate. It's that we're just shy and we're not used to being the center of attention. So we like to kind of keep it low key in the background. You know what I mean? And so that's where the likes and the views, but not the engagement comes from.
Yeah.
I've totally noticed that on social media too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or plenty DMs, but nobody likes them.
I'm like,
In the
I
comments.
don't even care, to be honest. I fell into this
too,
position. Like,
Kamaka.
I like to go home. I like to surf. I like to just watch anime at home. I'm like, I don't care to like get all these things. Like, this is work. This is a business.
But then at the same time, it's that privilege. I mean, not that privilege, that responsibility that you and I both carry, because I am the exact same as you. I hate social media, believe it or not.
I don't hate it. I hate the bad things about it.
I hate social media.
I
wish I didn't have to engage at all.
I think we don't know how to leverage it for business, for whatever. So we love that aspect of it.
Yeah. But again, it's just that responsibility that we carry as people that do have a platform, and especially a platform. I feel like your audience might be a little bit half or more than half, like Poe Hawaii / community, and then maybe a few other people that want to learn about Hawaii. Diaspora.
It's a lot of diasporic people that are like, oh, thank you for doing this. It helped me connect to Hawaii. So a lot of it is like 90% Hawaii, and like 10%, and then like 8%, like the people living,
and then 2%,
and then 2%. Well, no, I think 2% like international, like
that just want to look and learn more about Hawaii.
Well, because like it's funny because like we talk about everything on the podcast. Like we have 120 something episodes, about 1,000 clips, and maybe like 4 clips is about like the things that we're talking about, and like 996 other ones.
And when we were talking about it, you were like, oh, well, there's this episode and this episode. And I was like, okay, 2 out of your like 100 are about, you know, like, let's get some more people like this on the podcast.
No, I'm just talking about the controversial stuff.
Oh, I see. That's what I mean. Like, bring it up more.
No, we do, but like I told you, it's the ones that people disagree that get more engagement, that go viral. Because I could be like direct you to this thing. Like a lot of the things that I see is like, why don't you talk about this? Why don't you talk about this?
Please fast forward 20 minutes.
I was like
it's in there.
Yeah, I was like, we do talk about it. It's just, you know, like there's so much content.
It's exhausting.
It's like, how do you go? It's like, I can't do everything for everybody.
Yeah. That's what I mean about the educating though. Like,
yeah,
I can't do everything for everybody. We are both so busy doing all these other facets of community work, in addition to having a life, raising a family, and trying to run a business. You know what I mean? It's like, please, Google is free, is what I always tell people. Google is free.
I think the really ignorant thing too that I see on social media is like, oh, I see you like, you only comment back on like certain things, or like you don't comment back. I'm like, man, I can't comment back to 1,000 stuff. And also, why would I? So when somebody says something nice, like, I love your podcast, I'm going to say mahalo. When somebody says, you're a clown, you're trash, like, I don't want to respond to that.
I think, okay, well, I know that a lot of people had also said, like, you blocked me. I wanted to have a conversation. You said you're here for the conversation. And I understand what you're saying 100% about, like, well, if you're just going to attack my character, like, if you're going to come with some discourse, cool, let's have the conversation. If you're going to just straight up attack my character, I literally do not have any interest whatsoever in entertaining any of that.
Or let's talk in person.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to text.
That's what I always tell people.
Pull up.
Pull up. Here's the
Send
shop
the
address.
Addy. Send the Addy.
I want to talk so much online, and I'm just tired of the trolls, and I hear it. And so, like, I most of the time I don't waste time on it, but every once in a while there will be like such an egregiously disrespectful comment that I just have to like drop the address.
Everybody has a limit to where you, like I'm saying, like I rarely respond to people, but when I'm getting 1,000 comments and then
it's overwhelming.
I'm just like you have like, you can, they're like, oh, you're just being defensive. I'm like, I responded to 1 out of 1,000 comments just because you said like, I'm not Hawaiian. I'm just like, just Google. Like all I said is like, just Google, I'm Hawaiian. And they're like, oh, he's getting defensive. I'm like, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Sometimes, like it really does. It gets out of control.
I accept it. It's like it comes with the territory. You know, don't complain about too much food on the plate when your goal is to eat. Yeah. You know, so I accept it. That's why I don't feel like the need to defend myself a lot of times, because like I said, I know who I am. The people who listen, the people, my family, the people that matter, they understand.
Yep.
Like, why would I care about this one guy?
Remember, we said you cannot.
I gotta
do
care.
that.
I care.
When you get
I
to
care.
the platform, you have to.
They do matter, but they don't matter as much.
Yes, I know. It's and really like on some serious shit for our mental health. Sometimes we have to like sift through and like just do what we need to do and not engage with the general public on the internet for like our mental health, because it gets overwhelming. Like on some like not cocky shit, but when you go viral, it's overwhelming. The comments, the messages, the features, the this, the that. It's like a little.
Yeah, I think I didn't ask for it, but that's just the reality of the life that we live now, and I'm okay with it. Like honestly, that stuff doesn't bother me. I'm at a really good like headspace in life. I'm like when this stuff happens to me and people reach out to me like, "Are you okay?" Or like, because these are some things that people
like, you know me?
People get depressed. People commit suicide and this stuff.
Well, that's what I mean too about.
Well, I'm just happy that it's happening to me because I know that I
you can handle it. Same, me too.
Yes, so that's why I'm just like, if it would happen to anybody, I'm happy it's happening to me. So I
will be your chosen warrior, Hawaii. I will.
I'm just like, I'll be the martyr. If like this, if people have to hate me just because, and this is causing good conversation, like it
is at the end of the day, Kamaka, it's causing good conversation, and that is where I come from a lot. And people think that I'm attacking or I'm blasting. Like, I had just shared something a couple of days ago about the displacement from Hawaii, and so I had got not a ton, maybe like 3 or 4 DMs about blasting and this and that, and I was saying, that is not my intention at all. I'm just here to share, and I'm just here to say like, this is another perspective, and I'm here to hold this respectful space for conversations, and I'm here to get all of you thinking and starting these conversations in your own families and in your own communities. And I think that's where change starts, is from people like us starting those conversations and them happening everywhere and catching like, oh, you saw that clip, Kamaka? Oh wow, what do you think about that? Yeah, totally.
I know. And if like, to me, if they really wanted to understand, they would ask. If they just want to react and judge, like, that says more about them than it does me.
Yeah.
Than it does us.
Yeah.
But like I said, we can't it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so cool. Let's get into, this is only the first hour, guys. This is so great. Let's take a quick shishi break and we'll be right back. Okay, awesome. Cool.
Sounds good.
All right, we're back from a quick shishi break. Now let's get into the social media fan questions. We have a lot of ones. I'm going to start with my favorites. Okay. Punani Mommy says, is Kamaka as dumb in person as he sounds on his podcast? Let me repeat that. Is Kamaka as dumb in person as he sounds on his podcast?
Oh, you're asking me?
Oh yeah, these are the questions.
I think they're asking you.
No, these are from your page.
Is Kamaka as dumb? I don't know. I don't watch this podcast, to be honest. But so no, he does not sound dumb right now. But I don't watch that.
I think just the clips, maybe. Or
like we talked about extensively earlier, a lot of it is misunderstanding, miscommunication. I don't think he's dumb at all. No.
Hey, I'm smart. I'm intelligent.
He is smart. Yes, he is. He is Hawaiian. Like Daya. He's Hawaiian. Everybody.
Yeah. I do. The sad thing about that is, like, I understand people not wanting, like, being offended by like what's being said on the podcast, but treating somebody totally different just because you think they're not Hawaiian, I don't like that part.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem.
And then also, like we said, Kamaka the person totally different from Kamaka the podcast host.
Well, I think it's pretty much
same, but also like, I mean,
in those clips,
your job isn't who you are. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we represent the things that we do, but our job isn't who we are. And just because I make a decision in my job doesn't mean that my character as a person should be attacked.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. And that's her defending Josh Green, everybody.
Oh my God, he's gonna cut it and he's gonna say Emma. The caption gonna say Emma's
cut this, yeah.
Emma's support Josh Green endorsing. Oh my God. See, that's why I had to go live, Kamaka.
Okay, I won't do that again. That's so funny. Okay. Next question is from Malia Lani. I just want him to stop giving idiots a platform. So I guess you're an idiot? I'm just joking.
I hear you. I'm
just joking.
Well, I would say that I'm definitely very different from a lot of the people that you bring on your podcast, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's get to an actual question. Let's see. Let's see. We have so many. This whole second half of the podcast will just probably be questions. Let's see. Let's do this one. What is this is from Lacey Kuule. Oh, I think I've seen that username before. What is the term local, in quotation marks, to you, and how should it apply to today's society?
Yeah, local doesn't really mean anything to me unless you're talking about agriculture. Like, unless you're talking about plants that are being grown or like indigenous versus endemic, then local is not really a term that you'll ever find us using. We definitely always use terms like Hawaiian community or settler community or lahui, which to me encompasses both Hawaiian and settler community, in which if you hold and uphold kuleana to Hawaii, you're part of lahui, in my personal opinion. So yeah, local. I don't know what that means. It doesn't have any meaning here.
Okay. I guess in general, it's a geographical thing.
That's what I mean. Like plants, like plants grown in a specific area close to you.
Yeah, people have
local
born
honey
here. Yeah. Okay. There's just so many. I'm gonna go through every single one.
Just rapid fire.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to do this. Okay. Kahoane says discourse between Kanaka about divisive issues.
We love it. We encourage it. And this is a great example of how discourse between Hawaiians can happen in like a productive, respectful way. Really. I think this is a great thing that we did.
Yes, I love it. And I think it's like how we were talking about like the roast of Tom Brady, how like people can like take it.
Yeah. With a grain of salt.
Exactly. Yeah. And like be accepting, like these are just opinions and yeah. Okay. Next one comes from Sweetness B. This person says non-Kanaka speaking for Kanaka specifically in a large platform. Yeah.
That's a no. That's a double no.
Yeah, I agree.
I think they asked that because they thought, like we had been talking about earlier in the podcast.
It's like a white person talking about black issues.
It's just totally inappropriate and like not necessary. And there's tons of other people that could be speaking on that should be. Yeah,
I agree. Okay, next question comes from Anna Malia _G. It just says generational trauma with like 5 exclamation points. So generational trauma.
Generational trauma.
Okay.
If you guys are ever looking to learn more about generational trauma or healing your generational trauma, let me just plug myself here real quick. Moonkind Things, we do healing workshops for generational trauma that are specifically tailored to Native Hawaiian women. I'm not a man, so I don't have one for men yet, but I'm hoping to expand to give something for our kane to have some kind of generational trauma healing workshop for them to work through those things too. Because generational trauma is such a huge prevalent topic for Hawaiians. So I think that it's imperative for us to all be educated on it and for us to all be actively working through it so that our kids don't have to deal with what we're dealing with.
Okay. Yeah. Can you just tell us
what is generational trauma? Yeah, sorry, I forget that. Like not everybody knows.
Like, what if I grew up in
So Idaho. Generational trauma for Hawaiians specifically, I only speak from that space of generational trauma, is we have events in our history that were extremely violent and traumatic, and they have affected us all the way until now. So generational trauma is even though I wasn't alive in 1893 during the overthrow, I still feel all of the effects of the overthrow when we talk about things like, again, high rates of incarceration, high rates of poverty, high rates of domestic violence, high rates of drug addiction. All of those things are direct effects of pretty much the overthrow and the illegal, immoral occupation of America here in Hawaii. So generational trauma can be anything from some of the mental health problems that we have. Lots of Hawaiians deal with depression and anxiety. Lots of Hawaiians deal with PTSD. Lots of Hawaiians also just in general, like not a lot of financial literacy, like we talked about. All of those things are effects of generational trauma, which is basically like if, for example, let's say your parents are war veterans. So they've got like the loud noise PTSD, the like drug addiction, maybe to help them forget about things. The trauma that you're going to inherit as their children, or maybe you don't like loud noises because your parents were constantly fighting and yelling in your home. Maybe you have a deep hatred for the military because your parents inherited this PTSD from the military. So the generational trauma is like the not direct effects of what had happened before you.
Yeah. So it doesn't necessarily have to happen directly to you. For example, like our grandparents, our parents couldn't speak Hawaiian.
So that's why we almost like, so I could say for almost like you're not really want to partake in Kula Kaipuni the whole like journey could have been a part of that, because our parents were like not allowed to speak Olelo. They were told being brown and Hawaiian was really bad. So maybe they didn't want to instill that in our keiki. So then our keiki carry on this almost like chip off their shoulder about Olelo Hawaii, you know? Like, yeah, that's a great example of.
Yeah. And then I guess it's like, I guess here's a question. Is it our kuleana to break that cycle?
Yes, 100%. Because if not me, then who? If not us, then who? I think after having a child, my perspective has changed a lot, in that I don't want my daughter at protests. I don't want my daughter getting arrested, like how I had to get arrested for Hunananiho. I don't want my daughter, like, it makes me emotional to like even think literally of my child being in my position of being lifted off the ground, hauled away in a police car, like literally for protecting her onehanao. So because I don't want my daughter to do all of these things, I have to do them now, is how I feel.
Okay. I love that. Yeah, I agree that we should heal. We like find our way, talk with people. Like, yeah. And I think that just like, don't just sit there and be
Ignore
like, oh,
it
it
and
sucks.
be a part of
like,
it. Yeah, exactly.
Let's try to be the active solution.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Next question comes from Hannah 8i8. Pulling up oneself by their bootstraps / working hard in a system that's designed against you.
2 people had asked something similar to that. Basically, like pulling yourself up and doing the work yourself. Like you said, if they can do it, those guys over there that have way less than I do, how come I can't do it? And like we touched on a little bit earlier, again, the effects of the illegal occupation and of generational trauma in general are what make it hard for us. Like I said, the high rates of poverty, the high rates of incarceration. Like, how are you supposed to get ahead and buy a house in Hawaii if you couldn't get a job from when you were 14 because your parents were in jail and you had to take care of all of your siblings? Like, that's a common story that we have here in Hawaii. And so people don't recognize these inherent obstacles that Hawaiians are born with to fight against.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed on some of the clips, because I just had the Kamohai interest in the real estate, that people are pushing back. But they actually said they agreed that we are up against a lot of things and it's super unfair, and that like
but then I saw a lot of people tearing that dude apart in the comments because he comes from a place of privilege. His father being like a trustee and a CEO and this and that and blah, blah, blah. Like, Lahui does their homework. You can't come on a podcast in front of a whole bunch of people and say like, I worked hard to get where I'm at, when really you were handed a whole bunch of stuff that you were given to begin with.
I think he's a Kamehameha. You see, Kamehameha grad.
Yeah.
But I think he said the dad started from like the bank.
Yeah,
and then
somebody said that too. And they were like, oh, his parents worked to get where. But even that is like...
Yeah, I think it comes off from the other side, like people hating on success. I think that's one perspective of it.
I think that's a really haole way. And I know that that's how they see things. I can tell already. They're just like, oh, everybody know, like, buy my $1.2 million homes, just hating, just lazy, broke Hawaiians.
Because they can't do it.
Wow, that is really embarrassing that you think like that. Like, that's a disgrace.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation with them. And the episode was really good, but I understand that side. And yeah, privilege. They had some crazy times. Like I think he was like substance abuse and stuff. You get to work through that stuff, like classic
tracks,
local kind of things, problems.
But then the problem is that when people come up from stuff like that and then adopt that haole mentality of like, well, I worked through all of that, why can't you? It's just not the same for everybody. And again, that's very individualistic instead of collective. How can we rise together? How can we get everybody on the same page so we can all come up together instead of, oh, look at me, I'm all the way at the top. What are you guys doing down there, losers? Yeah.
Well, I think people are doing things to like help people, like specifically them. But in that example, they do free workshops to educate people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which they talk about. So from my conversation with them, they are.
But is that
doing
enough?
Things.
Is that enough?
I mean,
to like mitigate.
Are we nitpicking like, oh, they do all these things, but like, oh, is that not enough? You should do more. You should do more.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm that person. I'm very much that person. Like, yeah, you're right. It's not enough, and you should be doing more.
Because that's a lot more than some other people are doing.
That's true,
Yeah.
but it's still a lot less than some other people are doing. So
what is the standard? Because it's like, example, if you told me, okay, go clean my house, and to me, I'm like,
one thing is clean.
this is perfect. Like, I thought it looks really good, but it's
versus
not to
another.
your standard, because
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I would have dusted this a little bit more.
Yeah. I hear you.
Yeah.
And that's a good conversation for us to have as a whole that I don't think we're ready for at all. Like, I think we're ready.
Yeah.
I don't think they're ready for us to have that conversation.
Yeah. And I think we don't know what the standard, I mean, we can say we do.
Yeah.
Like, this is the standard of a perfect Hawaiian person.
Yep.
That believes in this and this
and
this.
upholds. Yeah.
And like, then that goes to the conversation of perfection. That doesn't exist?
I don't think we're looking for a perfect Hawaiian.
I think to make everybody happy, that's what it sounds like we need to do.
Perfect Hawaiian.
Yeah.
Like, to make me happy, I don't need a perfect Hawaiian, but to make everybody happy, yes, you're right. It's really looking for like this not self-serving, but this community servant that, like, speaks Hawaiian and does everything Hawaiian and looks Hawaiian. And I think it's important to start conversations surrounding what constitutes a Hawaiian, what makes you Hawaiian, cocoa versus this and that and blah, blah, blah. Those are all good conversations to have.
Yeah.
And then also keeping in mind that, like, what's the point? What's the function of the conversations, right? Are they pushing us forward? Are they making us stagnant? Are they making us scrap each other? Because then that function is not productive.
I mean, what is the why? I think that's important for me. It's like understanding people's why.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm sure more of those questions will come up. This next question comes from Tia Mohana May. Says, colonization progression in Hawaii as Kanaka and what that looks like in daily life. Decolonization progression in Hawaii as Kanaka and what that looks like in daily life. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, like, where are we at as Hawaiians in decolonizing, and what does it look like in a daily life? Again, that conversation I had with my mom, I'm over here like, no, we have so far to go. And like we said, I'm super old school, super traditional. I'm like, sometimes my head is down banging at the work so much that I forget to, like, look up around and how far we've come. But then I would argue to say that somebody like my mom might say, like, yeah, we've come very far. And and even that small example I brought up about the pule at the opening and the na'aumakua, that is an everyday reminder of decolonization. And that didn't happen overnight. That happened from people forcing their way into events and forcing na'aumakua. Because I've been at events where they only do the pule and then they start talking like they're going to start the event, and some uncle comes in and is like, na'aumakua mai kalahiki, and starts it and says, no, you need to wait until everybody has their opening space. And it's not, if not for that uncle doing that kind of stuff, then it wouldn't happen. And it would just have space for the Christian prayer. And like I always say, right? Like, it's not that deep, but it is that deep in making, creating, and holding space for Hawaiians in Hawaii.
Awesome. Okay. This next question is about being Hawaiian. It comes from Casey Brezina. She says, what is your opinion on not being Hawaiian enough? Enough in quotation marks. Never fitting in anywhere. I end up shame.
That makes me really sad. And I always get so sad for my poe Hawaii that I feel like they're not Hawaiian enough. But then that also encourages me to tell you to, like, why? Look into yourself, do some digging, do some research, do some deep inner work of, like, what did my kupuna do? What could I dive into to learn more about where I come from? Were they fishers? Were they farmers? Were they politicians? Were they strategists? Like, all of those things are very much a part of your mauli as who you are as a Hawaiian today.
Yeah, I think before looking to other sources, we always got to start with ourselves and our own kupuna, ho'ika piko, our own mo'okua hau, and be like, okay, maybe I like the water because my people were water people.
Ancestrally, you feel that.
There's like a physiological effect when we're in places of our kupunas, whether that's sailing, that's in the aina. I think people have to really listen to their na'o.
Yeah.
And like figure that out before like trying to figure out all these other things. Yeah. And it's possible. Like, I struggled with that growing up.
Yeah.
And like identity and over, like, I feel like I've done the work. I've had the conversations to this podcast. This podcast is like therapy for me.
Yeah, I bet.
And I'm at a really good place. But it's always an ongoing thing. You never get to like that peak and you're just like, I'm cruising, I know everything. It's like, nope, there's another mountain.
Always things to learn. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. PP Lada says, please read that clown. Sis mahalo. Please read that clown?
Next question.
Okay. Okay. This one comes from Kavika Asfili. Like his music. Ask him why he insists on saying outlandish things about Mea Hawaii for clickbait. I think we covered that kind of early in the beginning.
That,
yeah. Yeah, it's just conversation, and it's not.
It's conversations that need to be brought up, and it's social media. That's how social media works. I know that's not what everybody wants to hear, but that's how it works, guys.
Yeah. Like in this, like I'm already thinking in my head for the trailer of this episode, I'm gonna be reading like, why is this guy a clown? This is gonna be the first clip right here. Is Kamaka as dumb in person as he sounds on his podcast?
No, it has to be Punani Mommy.
Yeah.
That got me.
So that's probably gonna be the opening of the trailer.
Please, I'm excited.
Yeah, I think it's good to show people too that like you can take things and like
people. You know what? People love that about you and I. Is that we will stand on business.
Yeah. Well, some people don't think that about me because I don't respond to them on social media. But I'm like,
you have a different way of rolling with the punches. You laugh your way through it. You know, I'm like, no, pull up. Pull up right now. I will tell you in person what's good.
Yeah, I'm a lover, not a fighter.
I'm a fighter.
Yeah.
Through and through.
That's your ancestors right there.
That is the Kawahina.
You're the cause. Yes. I was probably like the strategist. I think I would be like the guy on the Va'as, like exploring the world.
Yes.
And just kind of like more solitude.
Very much so.
Yeah. Okay. Next one comes from Bethany Raylene. This person says, what makes a legit cultural leader? Who do you consider leaders for Hawaii? Great question.
I dove into this hugely on an Instagram topic that I did. So I'll just kind of briefly go over it because we did like a deep dive into it. A good cultural leader has to be for the collective. I think of Kamehameha Nui the first, first thing that pops to my mind, and how he was known for being a leader that worked in the lo'i with his people. And if you're not willing to get down and dirty with your people, and if you're not willing to do the work, then you're never going to make it as a leader. I think somebody that has a good support system, and I mean like they take care of their people, so their people take care of them, like their immediate circle has to love them. Like you can't have a leader who's like advisor and counselor secretly hate the dude. You've got to have somebody that takes care of their immediate people so they're supported and they can do their job. A good cultural leader is somebody that's educated and informed and that has a lot of patience, because Hawaiians are very emotional, heartfelt people. And sometimes the passion will take us a little bit off course. So you have to have somebody that can get all the lambs back on the path and calm everybody down, calm the herd down. And then, like we said earlier, someone that can speak to a room and touch your heart, not just because on our way here, my partner and I are talking about how Auntie Haunani Trask and Anakala Skippy Iowane, a power that they have, like a superpower they hold, is they are inherently people that have sacred rage, like angry Hawaiians, right? As people love to call us. But they speak in a way that doesn't convey that. They speak in a way that touches people's hearts, not their brains or their ears or their eyes. It like hits you at a deeper level, and that's a good leader. Somebody that's able to touch everybody, I think.
Yeah. Those are two great examples.
Yeah, yes.
I never knew Hanani. I had
Uncle Skip.
Mililani Trask as my teacher. I think it was Mililani. Actually, I don't know her name because growing up, you just Kumu Trask.
Yeah.
So, Onauna.
Oh.
It was in the Onauna Trask.
Onauna
I think that's
and Mililani are both Kumu, so yeah.
Yes, at Kaumekakao, and then Kumu Ioane.
Yes.
Uncle Skippy's.
That's my dad's stepbrother, actually.
Yeah. Well, not Uncle Skippy, but the wife.
Oh, Auntie Carol.
Carol, yeah.
Yes, Auntie Carol.
Carol Ioane.
At Kaumeke, that's right. I forgot.
Yeah. And then I know their kids.
I know them, yes.
Kelly
Love
E.
them.
And
love them. Big love for that.
And then the daughters were like helpers or teachers at different points.
Kaumeke,
Yeah, so people, I'm in it. I know these people.
Yes, he is Hawaiian.
I grew up Kilkaha.
Yes.
Well, I mean, going scooter.
Yeah.
You know, Kilkaha Warriors.
Yep.
8th grade Pee-wee quarterback.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I love
that.
it.
That was the peak of my athletic career.
I could see that.
Okay. Cajuanes says lahui and alcoholism.
Ugh, dude, big one. Somebody the other day asked me if I know any like Hawaiian spirit companies, that make like alcohol, because they wanted to do something, blah blah blah, wanted to support Hawaiian companies, and I told her I don't think, to be real with you, I don't know many, because Hawaiians, if you know the real history of Hawaiians and alcoholism, just like the real history of Hawaiians and Christianity, you wouldn't want to partake. You wouldn't want to mess around with all of that. If you look at our people's history of kind of where things started to fall apart, it was the Christianity and it was the alcoholism and
Well, what did I don't know. That's why. What is it?
okay, so
Not the Christianity part, the
like
alcoholism.
after contact, they started to bring lama alcohol, and stuff like that to Hawaii and trade it as part of whatever they were trading. This was during the whole time of like Kauikeaoli. I actually have a really good story that goes with that. So Kauikeaoli, actually, so Kamehameha III, right, for our friends that don't know, he spent quite a long time. So actually, it was Kamehameha II, sorry. After Kamehameha I dies, there's this kapu period, right? Where a lot of the things that were, or like this mourning period, where a lot of the things that were considered kapu were laid to rest, and everybody was just really focused on mourning. Because of what happened shortly after with Keopuolani and Keku'iapo'iwa and the breaking of the Aikapu and everything, because of that, there was no official reinstating of the kapu to be brought back, and that was done on purpose because they were setting up to basically cancel Aikapu, right? But it was funny because Liho, he basically did not want anything to do with what his moms were telling him to do. And so he took a boat and he went out and he got drunk. And for like a couple of weeks, he just sailed back and forth. And he was just being like a rebellious teenager
on the rich dad's yacht.
Yes. Yeah. Because he didn't want to come and declare no more kapu. And he knew it was going to start this whole shit fest. So he was like, I don't want to be the one to do it. I don't want any part of this. Was just drunk, sailing at sea, back and forth between here and there around Hawaii Island for like 2 weeks. And then he finally came in, and you can imagine what kind of state of mind he was in after like just binge drinking for 2 weeks. And that's like the most monumentous decision that ever changed our entire course of history. Yeah. You know what I mean? So to me, that's a great mo'olelo that tells us about how alcohol and like just vices in general take our people off the course, man. It takes our people, I mean, sorry, not saying that I kako'o the kapu, the abolishment of the kapu or anything, because we all know I'm old school. And so I would have loved that if we kept it. But just saying that alcohol, addiction, drugs, vices, all of those things. And then people, obviously, like Hawaiians, we are very prone to addiction. Because of the generational trauma, because of
the biological thing.
Yeah. And like, not just it's passed to us genetically, but it's like, it's a little, I hate to say it, but it's hard to be a Hawaiian. It's hard to be a Hawaiian sometimes. And it is a blessing and a curse. It is a kuleana that we carry with privilege, but I can see how a lot of people fall into vices.
Yeah. Oh, one thing I wanted to ask you about that certain topic was that, does every Hawaiian need to care about, like, for example, and yeah, your eyes get really big. What I mean by this is like, there are people who are born here, or I don't know, they're maybe not even born here, but they have Hawaiian blood. They're Hawaiian by koko, but they just like, they don't grow up with the Hawaiian culture. Maybe they're more like Japanese.
So to me, they don't uphold kuleana.
Yeah, but it's not even their, like, they weren't brought up with that. So like, they don't even view themselves as like a part of the lahui in a sense. But they're
Hawaiians like that, and it makes me really sad.
Same. That's why I ask about these things, and like they could be like, maybe they're more Hawaiian by blood than us. But they're just like, but you're way more Hawaiian than me. Yeah. You know, I just had somebody tell me that recently, like about all this stuff, where he was just like, but he was like, yeah, you're like way more Hawaiian than me, but I'm like way more Hawaiian by percentage than you. But like, does everybody need to do that? Because I think everybody should live their life the way they want to. No, the way they want to. Like, as long as my thing is like, as long as you're not hurting yourself and hurting others, do whatever you want.
Nobody needs to uphold kuleana.
No. I'm not saying. I'm saying in general. That's my general. Everybody, all humans. But for the Hawaiian side, Like, should
But then that's
everybody
individualistic, right?
No, but should everybody learn Olelo Hawaii?
Like every Hawaiian or everybody?
Both.
Every Hawaiian, yes. Every
Yeah.
Hawaiian should learn Olelo Hawaii. Everybody that lives in Hawaii, to be honest, I believe so. But then again, it goes back to like, who do I believe should be here in Hawaii? And that's people that uphold kuleana to Hawaii. So if you're upholding kuleana to Hawaii, then why wouldn't you want to learn Olelo Hawaii, learn Ike Hawaii, learn Mo'omeheu Hawaii? And if your intentions in being here in Hawaii are to uphold what this place is and preserve what this place is, then yeah, you should. Because I came across this great conversation on globalism or globalization and TikTok, where they were talking about how like this one place that they visited didn't have Uber, and they were kind of bummed out. They went back a couple years later, the place had Uber, and at first it was like, oh my God, it's so convenient, yay, we love it. But then it was like, well, if you've got Uber and you've got McDonald's and you've got Walmart, then what makes you different from America, where I just came from, you know? So if we try to make everything the same and we don't remember to preserve what it is that keeps us unique, then like Hawaii is just another freaking, I don't know, Florida or California, you know?
Yeah. I think it would be amazing if everybody could speak Olelo Hawaii. I mean, you go to Spain, they speak Spanish. You go to France,
there's
they speak
nowhere
French.
else for Hawaiians to go to speak Olelo
you go
Hawaii.
to Hawaii. Wouldn't it be cool if people spoke Hawaiian?
Yes.
I think we're still far away from that. Where like your mom said, like I said,
closer.
Like, we've come a far, and because I grew up with, like, I see the progress. Like when I was at Navahi, 100 students from kindergarten to 12th grade. When I came back from Madagascar, 2019, 500 students. They had to build extra trailers and stuff. So like,
you know what that tells me is our generation is growing up and having kids, and they are breaking the generational trauma, and they're starting those new cycles that preserve Olelo Hawaii, that preserve and prioritize Ike Hawaii.
Yeah. And that's why, you know, in these days, it's cool to be Hawaiian. Like everybody wants to be Hawaiian these days.
It is. And it's kind of, I don't know about you, but for me personally, I feel a type of way about that, because I was definitely that kid that got made fun of growing up for being Hawaiian, like, oh, sorry, native, you know, and stuff like that. And it was offensive and it was hurtful back then, and it's offensive and hurtful now. And then on top of all of that, to have people like, you know, dying to be Hawaiian pretty much, and the same people that were clowning on me and joking on me as kids in elementary school, my same cousins even, you know, and now they get their kids in Punana and I love it. I love to see it. I love to see that perspective and that paradigm shift.
Yeah. And that's what I talk about too. And like where my, I guess, trauma comes from. It's like, man, when I was growing up, it wasn't cool to be Hawaiian.
It was hard, dude.
Like
seriously.
I was embarrassed to speak Hawaiian with my family.
And then you got to go somewhere and they like you do pule. You got to go somewhere they like you do oli. And then everybody's taking pictures. Everybody's
always
staring.
like, hey, do the pule. One time I pulled it in Olelo Hawaii for like a soccer tournament. I forgot to bless the food. But then I was like, they don't know what I said.
They literally do not. That's the best part. Your grandma tell you pule, you say okay, and you just koma.
Nah. Oh, nah. The solo ho'onani na.
No, for real though.
Okay. All right. This is a good question from the same person, Kahoane. Has kapoloha become a weaponized way of avoiding accountability / discourse?
Dude, I absolutely love this question. And if I could pick one question from all 40, it would be this one.
Yeah.
I read that one earlier and I said, this person is on point. And I don't even know who this is, but I love it. And I want to know this person because
if you're watching this,
man, kapu aloha. Yeah. Long story short, yes. We saw this happen a lot during the Lahaina wildfires and everything. So my partner is from Lahaina, so we were in the thick of it with everything. And we made huge efforts to fly over there and kako'o and do everything that we could to kako'o her community, because it was a crazy time for all of us. But we saw lots of accountability conversations come up during Lahaina wildfires. And definitely the number one argument was, well, obviously, they're going through something really big right now. You can't be out here like targeting community members that literally just lost their entire like life, well-being, family, this, that. But then like, to what point, right? Do we just let shit slide? Like there was a lot of talk on, and this comes up later when somebody said about Tiare and Napua, there was a lot of talk on Tiare Lawrence. I don't know how much he kept up with everything that was going on, but there was a lot of talk about Tiare Lawrence, who is the community relations person for Mahipono. Yeah. And so a lot of people had lots of discourse on how Mahipono is really this anti-Aloha Aina company that is fucking up like the agricultural landscape of Maui, especially West Maui, contributed a lot to the desertification of that space. And Napua, who was a wahine from Maui that was holding a lot of people accountable on social media. But some people were saying like the character attacking is where it needs to stop.
Is
like
that the Napua Huehu?
Yes, Napua Huehu.
Oh yeah, I've heard some things about her.
Yes, she's just like us. She's a very opinionated, strongly opinionated person, and she's very polarizing. Some people really love her. Some people cannot stand her.
Blocked her.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. It's just sometimes it's a lot. But I came from a place of like, right on, finally, somebody is holding our lahui accountable and calling these people out, because for a while I felt myself screaming into the echo chamber. And then I also agree with the flip side of like holding our lahui accountable with aloha is the most important thing we can do. But kapu aloha is a very interesting subject. And I'm trying to be careful with my words here. But I do think that kapu aloha in general is something that people use as an excuse for being held accountable and for accountability.
Okay.
Because to a lot of people, kapu aloha just means like, aloha, be nice. Like they don't really know where
like Mahatma Gandhi.
Yes.
Like let's just be peaceful. Let's sit down to protest.
Yes. And they don't really truly understand the concept of kapu aloha and how it was born in 2015 on the Mauna and through all of that deep inner work and like lahui work. And so the way that it's been kind of commodified and used nowadays is like, be nice to each other, have aloha spirit, and almost like over abusing that aloha spirit vibe. So
like kapu aloha has become like the cool new version of like aloha in a sense.
Yeah.
Like,
but also a way for people to say like, oh, don't be a bully, kapu aloha. When being a bully is really just holding your neighbor accountable for their actions that are being harmful and detrimental to the community.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Because esteemed elders in our community have created the term and concept kapu aloha, right? So it's like the respect for those elders and the respect for that movement and the respect for its function during the Mauna, but then people taking it out of context and not fully understanding the concept of kapu aloha ends up in what we're talking about, in a cop-out, an excuse for not being accountable and holding yourself accountable.
Okay. So cop out aloha, not kapu aloha. That's what it is.
Cop out aloha. I hear it.
Yeah, make that sure. Nah. Okay, yeah, I agree. I think that's something people I think just gotta reflect on.
Yeah,
I think so. Okay. Next question comes from K. Cristo Chavez. This person says, "How to squash the locals versus Hawaiian rhetoric?" I think
we talked plenty about this. Yeah.
Well, I think if you could just give like people like explain like the difference between local and Hawaiian, because we talked about local and we talked about Hawaiian, but like
what's the difference?
Yeah, because I think that's like a common thing that I try to explain to people too, especially friends who aren't from here. Yeah, they're like
if you're Hawaiian
pizza and like Hawaiian stuff. Like let's go to like a Hawaiian place, or like you're like wearing the Hawaiian shirt. And
again, it goes back to our conversation of this fetishized version of Hawaii versus like the fucking homeless Hawaii, the high rates of incarceration Hawaii that we know, right?
Yeah.
And it's again this like, and that's why it's so harmful to continue to paint the farmers market Hawaii, the like palm trees, hula skirt, cellophane hula skirt picture, is because that's what they expect when they get here. And then when they get here and we've actually got robberies and homeless people on the street and meth addicts in Chinatown, then they're like, oh my God. And like, we tried to tell you.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry. So that's what you asked. Okay, so local versus Hawaiian. So if you're Hawaiian, you're Hawaiian. Like if you have, it depends on if you're talking about it. It's a very nuanced conversation. But again, back to the kuleana, it all goes back to kuleana for me. If you're upholding kuleana, whether as a Native Hawaiian or as an ally of the Native Hawaiian Kingdom, then you are Hawaiian. Versus if you're just existing, if you're a settler, if you're a transplant, if you're but then again, settlers and transplants can be Hawaiian if they are acting and thinking and actively working towards being allies of the Hawaiian Kingdom.
I said something like that, but with way less eloquency. Okay, yeah, I agree. I think Hawaiians can be locals, but locals can't be Hawaiian
Hawaiians can be locals, but locals
unless
can't be Hawaiian. Yes.
XYZ.
Yes.
Mm.
Locals. To be honest, I feel like locals is almost like a cheat code term that people use these days because they don't want to say all Hawaiian or
The people,
or they don't want to make on purpose, don't want to make the distinction.
Yeah, I said people of Hawaii and Hawaiian people.
Mm.
I think that's how what was it? Because I mean,
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But then for me, it's even more nuanced because it's like, okay, of Hawaii as in the fake state Hawaii or Hawaii as in the Hawaiian kingdom, because those are two totally different groups of people.
It's crazy that everything we say, it's like there's so many layers to it.
Yeah.
And it's hard to, it's like, how much time you got to listen to others, right?
That's how
like,
I feel. Like
how do you
have time
explain,
for a PowerPoint?
Yeah, to your friend who's Haole that's like just asking a simple question.
Yeah. And again, it's not that deep, but it is that deep, exactly. Right?
Yeah, like Totally. Yeah. Okay. This next question comes from Selinji. I think that's what it is. Why most Hawaiians don't take financial responsibility seriously?
Because we don't care about money. And I mean that with my whole chest. We don't care about money. There's way better things that are more important to Hawaiians than money, than having a house. Financial responsibility is the last on our list because we're worried about Brought It on the street that just committed suicide because his family has been, strung out for a couple of weeks. We're worried about the single mom down the road that isn't going to be able to feed her kids. There's just way more stuff to like real life pressing stuff than us worrying about working 80 hours a week to afford a house. Mm-hmm. It's not that we don't know. It's that we know and it sucks and we don't want to take part in it on purpose. I think that's what really grinds my gears is people think we're like stupid or like lazy. Again, like that rhetoric that Hawaiians are stupid, lazy, financially irresponsible, when really it's that we see it and it's a terrible system, America. It's not working. It's not making anybody happy. We don't want to take part in it. And the more that we choose to not take part in the systems, to me, the more that we have room for other systems, our own systems that do work for us.
Yeah. I think there's two sides of it. There's the people that were like, well, what if I just got money and helped all those people? And then there's just like, money doesn't buy happiness.
You can't eat money.
Yeah. So I see both sides. And I think it's more so about finding a balance and saying no to everything else. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I agree. And I also encourage. I encourage. But
then that's how we get in hot water, like Texaco sponsorship, right? Is where like, oh, well, it's okay because they're ABC. And whereas I'm like some people, as in the questions, might consider it as being a sellout, right?
Yeah.
Taking money to
I think there's a question coming
doing
up about
something that doesn't align with our values as Hawaiians. Like inherently as Hawaiians, I could say definitely that like as a whole, Hawaiians do not align with like big oil, right? Like that could definitely be something that could be said. I don't think I could say all Hawaiians hate big oil, but I could say that as a whole, I don't think that Hawaiians benefit from big oil. But then it could go into nuances. Like you're like, oh, well, the job's made. And then I'm like, oh, well, the money. Like who cares about the money?
Or I'm not supporting big oil. I'm supporting Island Energy, what they're doing.
Or Island Energy.
Yeah.
But then isn't that still big oil?
Island Energy isn't, but it's just promoting the Texaco brand. So I understand that. Yeah. I don't know what I was going to say to that. But this next question comes from _coconuts. 3Z's _ How does it feel to be a sellout at host? Laughy face emoji. JK. I guess it feels great. I don't know. Joking. Yeah, I don't know.
They really came for your neck with these comments.
Yeah, these are just I don't take it personally. I don't know what's going on in their lives. I don't know what makes them say that. They don't know my whole story. They don't want to ask questions for clarification. So yeah, I don't believe I'm a sellout, especially because I know what I'm doing and what I've done in my resume for what I've done for this world. So yeah, it doesn't bother me. Yeah, you can view me as a sellout. I'm still going to be trying to help people as much as I can. I mean, I want to see you go donate 3 years of your life just to volunteer in a foreign country. I mean,
but then again, people would argue like with the foreign country, like we need help here at home. Like we need 3 years of your help here.
Well, it's cheaper to go live there than...
Yeah, I bet. That's crazy that it's cheaper to fly halfway across the world and make a living over, or not make a living, but...
Well, I mean, like there's, the Peace Corps is a great program where, they pay for all your stuff so you can live there and volunteer. You don't get paid, but like they take care of the housing and whatever. And then you can give back on a larger scale. Because like I said before, to me, I view myself human first, Hawaiian second.
Yeah.
Of course, I want to help our people, but I can help other people as well. And then bring that ike back to Hawaii and see where we go from there. Okay, so next question comes from B Kahea 95. How can we help our lahui from the States? Quotation America.
I had a hard time when I first read this one because I'm not in the States, so I don't know. I don't really, to be honest, like I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what you're capable of. I guess staying connected, because Kanaka come home is always the goal. And active, to me, I'm just like, get back home. Like, how can you position yourself if that's in your purview to come back home?
Okay. Yeah, again, like same. I don't really... We can't really speak from first-hand experience. I've spoken with people on this podcast, like Kiliona.
Yeah.
Do you know Kiliona?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
About that, and some other people who like weren't born here and they live here. So go watch past episodes, talk with people, follow people, learn about that. I
would say diaspora Hawaiians are better to speak on that than us.
Yeah, I don't know how we can help besides just like giving resources.
Yeah.
Okay, small _ house _ growers says, what kuleana do you feel like successful Kanaka have to lahui?
Wow, that's such a good one to bring up after all of our conversations today. Kuleana that successful Kanaka have to lahui, I think you owe everything. I know that it's not a popular answer, but I think you owe everything to Hawaii. And as somebody that, my foundation is everything Hawaii, that's all that I live for. That's all that I live for, is to give back to my people. I mean that with my whole entire heart. That's all I live for, is to provide for my people and give back to my people. And I was so blessed to have the upbringing that I did, to have the Hawaii that I did. That's all I want, is to provide that for my keiki too. And so I think the kuleana that we have or that others have as successful Hawaiians is to malama kaiaulu, malama. And then, like we said, what's the standard? When is enough? When is it not enough? When is it too much? That's different for every single person. But the kuleana, definitely, whether you're I guess it depends on how you're successful. Are you financially successful? Then
what is success to you?
Yeah, exactly. You should be pumping money back into your communities. Are you socially successful? Maybe then you should be bringing awareness to community issues. Like, everybody's got their own kuleana. There is no be all fit all. So it just depends on what your success looks like. But basically, to me, like I said, for the whole entire rest of the podcast, it's the collective. How can we help the collective should always be on your mind. Yeah.
And I believe we're both community-driven people. Maybe my community is not the exact community that people want me to support, where I'm more like macro and you're micro.
Yeah.
But it's community.
Yeah.
I do everything to give back. I don't care about making money for myself. All the money I make, I take care of my sibling, I take care of my family.
Yeah.
I donate.
Well, but that's also could be seen as the individual, right? Because that's what I share, is like when we're just thinking about our inner, like just our family, that's still our individual. Like, I think branching out further into like our community, like not just our neighbors, but like I said, homeless people are part of our community too. Like, just for example, that's that's a huge portion of our community that, people forget often. And when they're taking care of everybody else, we forget about our house's community.
Yeah, and volunteer events.
Yes.
Stuff like that.
Yes, totally.
Donating clothes.
Yeah.
Like,
all of those are all good ways we can.
I've done this. I'm not gonna bring up my whole resume, but yes.
Yeah.
I believe in that stuff. Altruism is like such a big part of my life.
Yeah.
Okay, next question comes from Hawaiian National. Please explain the difference between entitlement and kuleana.
They're not even on the same page. Like, entitlement is you thinking that you have the right to something just because you were born in Hawaii, just because you're a business investor, just because da-da-da-da-da. versus kuleana being the responsibility that you hold. So I think where he was coming from with that one was he wanted me to explain to you, because of that whole
Mm-hmm.
episode about the difference between Hawaiians being entitled versus Hawaiians having responsibility. And yeah, we covered that extensively about the entitlement issue versus Hawaiians having responsibility, which I again really truly stick to, that all Hawaiians have a huge responsibility to Hawaii.
Yeah. I guess I can explain. Like, I also didn't say Hawaiians are entitled. I mean, there's like a lot of entitlement in our society, which you would understand if you lived in
the whole,
and if you lived in other places, like, and see the things that we complain about, like waiting for 15 minutes to get food, or not having electricity, like,
of course.
So that's what I mean by entitlement. And I think, again, I just didn't word it well, so people are like, oh, this guy doesn't think we're entitled to Aina, which I didn't say. But
again, though, the responsibility that comes with having a big platform and misspeaking, because I've definitely learned my lessons about that too.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe give some grace, try to learn more.
Yep.
But yeah, I believe like kuleana is definitely something that we gotta like lean into.
Yeah.
This next question comes from Cass Kahealani. Address what he said episode before about us not Hawaiians if we don't speak language, etc. We kind of talked about that.
You want to add anything else?
Well, yeah, like I said, it was just like I listed a bunch of different things, but people only stuck to that. But I was only speaking to a specific person, not everybody. I don't know what else to add about that. I don't believe that you need to speak Hawaiian to be Hawaiian. I've said that before in the podcast.
Somebody in the comments too was like, but does it make you Hawaiian if you do speak Hawaiian?
I guess in what is your definition of a Hawaiian?
To you.
I think it makes you able to speak Hawaiian.
Yeah, I was gonna say it makes you a Hawaiian language speaker.
My dad isn't Hawaiian. He's just Portuguese, Japanese.
But he speaks fluently.
He speaks fluently, and he looks like he's completely local. But I guess like, is he more Hawaiian than other Hawaiians in your, I don't know, like structure of what
dichotomy
a Hawaiian, it is maybe. But yeah, to me, I guess and this is where I have to watch out, because I'll be like, I don't care if what matters more to me is the actions and people's lifestyle, rather than just having cocoa and getting a participation trophy for being
that, for sure.
Yeah, it's like, it's
the intention. It's the investment of mana is what I always say. Like, where are you investing your spiritual energy? Where are you investing your thoughts? You know, like that is where it's at. For sure.
I get the question a lot, like, oh, is it okay if I learn Hawaiian even though I'm not Hawaiian, or it's this and that?
Weird. I hate when people ask me that.
Well, I just said like,
go do whatever you like.
Exactly. Well, it's just, what is your intentions?
Yeah.
And plus, we're not at the place in like numbers wise to be like, you can learn, you can't learn.
I agree. 100%.
The more the merrier.
Yeah.
Please, everybody learn.
Well, on that topic, I have a question for you. How do you feel about, there's lots of kumu olelo Hawaii these days on social media, it feels like. What do you feel about all of that?
Well, if they went Kamehameha, then definitely not. my little sister went to Kamehameha because my mom's
her olelo is Hamajang.
No, my mom's a Kapalama graduate. She boarded. Yeah. And then none of us went to Hawaiian immersion.
So you guys all different though, olelo.
Well, yeah, she's probably the worst. Yeah. Especially because we have different dads. Yeah. So like our dad speaks Hawaiian with us. So she can speak Hawaiian, but she's like the more hema one. Yeah. So we all joke like, oh, we went to a real Hawaiian school. Yeah. So this like as jokes, but I mean, to be honest, I'd probably send my kid to Kamehameha if I had a kid. I'd probably do both, but like high school, I'd probably do that for sports. But anyways, what were we talking about?
I know, we were talking about, I totally lost it.
Her.
Oh, I asked you, how do you feel about Kumu Olelo Hawaii on social media?
I like it like Ka'alala. I really like, you don't like him? I know he gets a lot of pushback.
He does.
And
He
plus,
does get
because you
a lot
come
of
from the
pushback.
Kahakaula background.
Yes.
That's the exact
Oh my
people
God.
that...
Cringe.
Yeah. And I get it because same with Cal Neesmith. I don't know if you know
it's
him.
totally
I've had
like,
them both.
no, hooky between Manoa and UH Hilo. And then there's the third party, Kamehameha, who's trying to be in the fight, but they don't even.
They're like, you don't even go here.
Manoa is like, brah, come on now.
Yeah. So
and it's funny because I went to both. Like I said, I went to KS, I went to Manoa, and I went to Hilo. So.
Yeah. And I come from the lexicon background
Lale
and like
Kimura.
the academia, Lale, Anakala, like the people that like revive the Hawaiian language, like those are the people I learned from. Yep. So like
and all of that is all Kahakaula too.
And Keiki Kawaya is the director of Kahakaula.
Yeah, and I see what you mean exactly of like the different kaila o Aloha Hawaii.
Yeah, and I think there's a world where both can exist.
Oh yeah.
It's just different. To me, it's like different dialect. Like we didn't learn to speak like kupunas because there's no kupunas to teach us.
Yep.
So Aloha Hawaii likimekia no kamea wa o iao likimekia. So this is how I was taught. I wish I could sound like like it sounds cool to me. Like it honestly sounds cool. Like
it does. It sounds cool, but
it's just this is the world we live in now.
It is. There's all different kinds of everything.
I think it's good to learn all about that stuff because like Keao and what's his name? Maluhia states they opened my eyes to new perspectives, and I agree with some of the things they say. I don't agree with some of the other ones, like the Okinas and Kahako's. But we can get into that because I know there's a question about that as well. So we'll continue on. This might be the longest episode. Do you have a hard cutoff, by the way?
240.
240. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So we'll just try to get to these. We'll just try to be quicker on these answers. Kaye_43 says, let's talk about getting our nation back and what that would look like.
That's next episode, guys. Sorry.
Okay.
That was a can of worms for me.
Okay. Koapaka's mama says, just because we can't Olelo fluently doesn't make us not Hawaiian. I agree.
Yep.
Anything?
No.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. La El Lac C Kanoy _ says, how can Kanaka realtors sell out their own land?
I guess, people were super pissed at that last episode.
I had no idea because they have so much support. But again,
from not Hawaii.
But again, we live in bubbles, and we live in echo chambers. So if everybody's
it's so funny
saying,
because you're like, oh, they have so much support, and from my side of the spectrum, I have not. I think two people total. I've talked to, and they're like, oh my God, have you seen this? I'm like, don't bring it up.
And then that's just because that's why it's important to have conversations with people who aren't in your bubble, so you can learn about these things. Yeah,
I think people did learn about them and they were still upset. It's like they heard the podcast and they were even more upset because a lot of the justification was like, oh, well, we're helping Hawaiians get in homes. And it's like, I don't know one single Hawaiian that would qualify for a $1.3 million home. I don't know a single Hawaiian personally. I just don't know a single Hawaiian that would qualify for a $1.3 million home.
Would you like to be that Hawaiian one day?
No, personally, no. I'm not. That's not what it looks like for me.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because some people would be like, well, if somebody gave you $100 million, you would take it.
Yeah. Would I use it for myself? No. That's the whole difference.
Yeah. Okay. Haku Baby says, I'm nervous. I want to hear you rip him for real. I think that's how it's supposed to say.
I'm telling you, they were all like ready for me to go for the juggler because they know that I am somebody that is very opinionated, and then especially on the things that you guys are speaking on, and they are things that I'm very passionate about on the opposite end of what you folks were saying. And so they were all like, oh my God, like, let's go, let's hear it. And I'm like, guys, we're just here for a conversation.
I know, it's funny how people get so like
heated.
Yeah, and just like destroy this person. Like, do you actually want to tear down another Hawaiian?
Do you actually want him to cry right now?
Do you want me to like lose my job and be homeless? Like, is that your true intention?
I don't think that. I think their true intention, though, in that example, would be to make you look and reflect on, okay, well, why, what was it, that was making it not sit right with them, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so for real, that's the first thing I told you. I was like, give it to me,
please.
Yeah,
please come ready. I said, oh, yep, I will.
Yeah. Okay, Pu'uke_farms_ says accountability, especially from self-appointed leaders. I would say, of
We
course.
talked about that, yeah.
Celine G says, why don't we have role models in most Hawaiian families, but most have a lot of drug dealers?
We also talked about that. Direct effect of generational
Yeah.
trauma. Next.
Break the cycle.
Yeah.
Tara DeBode. Oh, this is so interesting. There's a lot of people that I
You
know
also
have been
see.
following me for a while.
Yeah.
Texaco is such a gnarly sponsor, LOL. But this, yeah.
We talked about it. Yep.
Yeah. I'm sorry if you disagree with it. Yeah. Celine G. Let's go to why does our communities not take politics seriously?
Like we talked about earlier, though, like I don't take politics seriously. I don't give a shit. I don't keep up with the presidential election. I don't keep up with who's running for what here in Hawaii. I especially don't keep up with who's running for Oha. And people hate me for it. And they get upset and they're like, it goes straight into the rhetoric of you need to be more informed. You need to be voting. You need to be doing this. And I don't need to do shit.
Your kuleana is to vote.
That instills a fire in my heart, Kamaka. All I'm worried about is teaching my kid how to plant, teaching my kid how to do a fence, teaching my kid how to feed her community and how to make friends with the auntie down the street and take her rubbish out so she no need worry because all her family is diaspora Hawaiians. You know, like I'm way more worried about keeping it in-house over here. And then also I truly believe, and I know I get a lot of shit for this all the time and I'm seen as like a crazy radical Hawaiian, but I truly believe that the more that we purposefully put ourselves in these systems, the more we get lost in the sauce. The more that you are focusing on and talking about who's running for whatever the fuck, the more that you're not worrying about who would be in charge of the governmental system if America tomorrow stopped bringing mats and chips. 90% of people here would have no idea what to do. And then 5% of the 10% would not have an idea what to do, but they would know somebody to go to that would help them figure out what to do. And then there's 5% maybe that would be able to put the entire community on their back and carry them through that. Yeah. So it's like if we maybe just invested our energy in places that were a little bit more important and prevalent in 2024 as Hawaiians, I think we might be a little bit more well off.
Yeah. That's one of our missions for Ho'aina is to create that and like educate people, have workshops in Olelo, Hawaii, and also have people there to learn about myself as well.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Okay. Next question comes from Vainueva. Can we remind Howlers that just because they live here, they ain't Hawaiian?
Howlers, just because you live here, you're not Hawaiian. Next.
Okay. Mama.Domingo says, what is your perspective on Hawaii's housing crisis?
Oh, man. Again, another one that we could spend lots of time on. 3 big things. Settlers that are coming here and they don't understand that when you take a house, you're directly taking a house from a Native Hawaiian. So you're moving into a house, you're directly moving another Native Hawaiian onto the streets or off to California or off to Vegas. And when there's like we continuously say no Hawaiians, no Hawaii, we mean that. Like you guys will not like what Hawaii looks like when there's no Hawaiians left. When there's trash everywhere, when there's no waterways that are protected and cared for, when there's like just everybody honking their horns on the freeway, just like LA, you guys are going to wish that you took better care of the population of people that live here and have stewarded this place for generations.
Beautiful. I like that.
Thank you.
Okay. Aloha Espinosa _ says why you chose to go onto his podcast.
Dude, so many people asked me that because they were like, what are you doing? Like, he's just gonna make you look like an angry Hawaiian. He's just gonna paint you like one way and edit it and this, that. And I know I said, well, damn, have a little faith in me. Have a little trust in me that I know what I'm walking into. And not just that I know what I'm walking into, but that I did my homework, that I did my research, that I stand on a strong foundation enough to come here and be a representation of myself, my family, my community, our lahui, you know. Yeah. So that one was a little twofold for me because I was, love you guys. Thank you everybody that had messaged me and was like worried about me. But I was like, guys, like this is a great opportunity for me. And a lot of people were just like, you're just going to go on it. And then everybody on the internet is going to shit on you. And even my partner was a little worried because she knows sometimes I can get a little sensitive to what people say on the internet. But I said, it's okay what other people are going to comment. It's okay what kind of topics are going to come up because I stand so strong on my foundation. And to be honest, I think utilizing and leveraging your platform to get my message out is like the most important, cool, awesome blessing that I could get is to continue to share the message I've been sharing my entire life, but on a bigger platform with people that maybe necessarily wouldn't have come across my page unless seeing it on the Aloha Pod. So yeah.
No, I appreciate you and appreciate you having an open mind and coming with Aloha.
Yes.
Kapu Aloha.
Talk really quickly about the Keep It Aloha Pod. Where did that name come from?
Keep It Aloha is when I would make YouTube videos, I would write poems and songs for my friend that would sing. He would sing on YouTube, and something we would all say is like "Keep it pono." Like,
I actually remember your YouTube days. You know, I totally remember.
I used to have YouTube, and we would post all kind of videos.
Yes.
So it's something we would all say is like "Keep it pono, keep it aloha." And then when we were the Hawaiiverse podcast, where we were more centered on like businesses. Businesses. The conversation, just because of my background, gravitated more into culture and learning about people's stories. Like when people come on here, I only want them to look good. Like I want to give them a platform that they can share their stories. And I'm just a moderator. I'm not trying to make anybody look bad.
Yes.
Like I'm just here to kind of guide the conversation. So when I was thinking about Keep It Aloha, I'm like, we could do something with Hawaii, but I want to be a little bit more like, I believe that Aloha can be kept in Hawaii, but I feel like we should give a little out because I do believe that we can help out the world with Aloha. And I feel like our Aloha is very unique.
Hawaii Island Bryson, what's his
hero?
His slogan? No, he's got like a slogan. Aloha will save the world. That guy.
Oh, Bronson.
That's
that sticker's on my truck. Aloha will save
Bronson.
the world.
Yes, met him on the mountain in 2015.
Bronson, yes.
Solid brother.
He's very close. Him and Bree, very close to me.
I think about that. Aloha will save the world sometimes.
And yes, so I love that. I love the concept of Aloha.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it can touch a lot because my goal is to go out and like touch other people and like educate people on Hawaii, the real Hawaii and what Aloha is. Yeah. So I just feel like in my life, something that I always try to do is I always try to keep it Aloha. So regardless if people are saying bad things to you, you're having a bad day, you're having a good day, you're mad, you're angry, you're happy, sad, always keep it Aloha.
Yeah.
You know, and somebody does interrupt the chakra to me. Try to keep it Aloha, you know?
Okay.
So for me in my life, it's something that I really strive to do is keep it Aloha.
Okay.
Like even in these moments where, you know, I don't look good, I try to keep it Aloha. You know, it really helps me hold myself accountable.
Can I ask you an Aloha question?
Yeah.
My thing that I constantly say is, what is the function of using Olelo Hawaii in your inoa? Because to me, if you're just using Olelo Hawaii and you're not doing something to further Olelo Hawaii, then what is the function, right? So what is the function of using Olelo Hawaii for, instead of like keep it love or keep it peace, keep it happy? Well, is it just because it sounds gimmicky, or is it like because you stand on a foundation of Olelo Hawaii?
Yeah, I don't like when people use Hawaiian words and they don't even speak it, or they just like they use it for some sort of benefit.
Just for gimmicky.
Olelo Hawaii is my first language. It's a part of me. It's how I communicate with my family.
Okay.
That's why I don't like do too much social media stuff on Hawaii, because I don't want it to.
You live it.
Because exactly. To me, it's not a way to make money. It's not a way to like impress people. Like I don't have on my bio Olelo Hawaii. Because I don't feel like that I need to do that. Like I don't need to prove to to others that I speak Hawaiian, because to me, my relationship with it is a way to communicate.
It's not this like far-fetched gift of our ancestors. It's like, this is my everyday life.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so it's not something where I'm just like I need to do it to impress others. Even the whole like having it as a secret language, like you know, I don't speak with my siblings, but like when we go out like surfing, like you use it to like, so other people that don't know what you're saying, like,
you don't like that?
No, I do like it, but I also want to like realize like it shouldn't just be like a secret language.
I see what you're saying.
It shouldn't just be that used for that purpose. We should, you know, ho'okuluma i kolelo Hawaii and normalize it and stuff like that. So that's kind of like for me, finding the balance of how to use it. But again, like keep it aloha, it means something to me personally. And that's why, and I truly, but like it's one of my favorite words. Aloha and ohana is my favorite words, because those are like the biggest things to me.
Beautiful.
So that's why keeping it aloha is like a way to educate people, because even if they see aloha, they associate it with Hawaii, but they don't know the kauna of it. They don't really know the multiple meanings of it. So it's an opportunity to educate people.
I love that. That's great. That's awesome.
So that's why I keep it aloha. Yeah.
I like that.
And, people think doing certain things on the podcast isn't keeping it aloha, but again, that's their definition of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, okay, moving forward, Pillar_1 says how we as Kanaka have been forced to live dual lives by being a part of capitalism.
Ooh, we talked about that one a little bit about walking the two worlds. But just I think that's a whole nother can of worms that goes along with. And I think that's for like my more advanced listeners. So guys, I also have a podcast myself. If you're interested in any of the things that we touched on, Moonkind Things on Spotify or Apple, if you're interested in diving deep, because that's what the podcast for me is. I started my podcast as a way to talk shit. I was like, I be talking shit on here all the time anyway.
Exactly.
Might as well monetize it.
Yep.
So it's just really a place to educate yourself, to discuss community issues, but really do a deep dive into some of the concepts that we talked about here. So, like I said, we don't have enough time to cover everything in a deep dive, and it would take too much time to really go into that, but check out my podcast.
Okay. One of the things I like to say is monetize.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know if I like that.
No, I mean, like, instead of money, it's with mana. Like,
you know what's funny is
mana.
that I don't know if you've ever seen my design that is put your mana where your mouth is.
Oh, no, I like that.
Sometimes people are a little polarized by it. They're like, just like how my first instinct when you said that was like, I don't like mixing up mana and money. And then I was like, girl, you have a design that says the same thing. That's funny.
Yeah.
Monetize. Okay.
Yeah. Well, because to me, it shifts away from money instead of monetize.
That was what my mana'o was.
Like,
but then when people first see it, they think just like I thought you mean. Yeah. Okay. That's funny.
But that's why you asked.
I love it. Yes, exactly.
Okay. To move to these, Jonu H Te says responsibility about posting short takes on social media. Not everyone watches the full version. Yeah, it's something that we understand. It, I guess, just
that's also on you as a viewer. If you're gonna choose to not watch,
you also understand what we understand.
You have to take it with a grain of rice and say, like, I didn't watch every second of this guy's podcast, so I can't make all these assumptions about him. It's twofold. It's on you as a viewer, but it's also on us as people that have the platform to be responsible users. Yeah.
But I think if you're gonna take the time to judge and all this, you can.
Then
also
you better take the extra 30 minutes to watch the podcast.
Yeah. Same way, even just judging somebody off social media, like somebody seeing you, and like, being like, oh, this is another angry Hawaiian,
Yep.
Like, try dig deeper.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just reading these to give people shout outs of their names, but we'll just go over it. Hamo the Heva says his rage baiting content and his sponsorship with Texaco. Chelsea _ Kim says his Texaco sponsorship.
They hate the Texaco.
Yeah, I see it. It is this community though. I do notice.
Of course.
So because other people are like, awesome, good job, like that's awesome. So it's just different views. Kuheleloa _ says steps to get the kapu system back, and also the name Keep It Aloha and WTF is the purpose of the show. He talks down on natives. Yeah.
What was cool? What did Kuheleloa say?
System to get the kapu system back.
That's another one. Listen to a podcast, girl.
Okay. Yeah. I'm keeping track of time too, so you can.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the name Keep It Aloha, which we talked about, and the WTF is the purpose of his show. He talks down to natives.
I have a whole new respect for you, I have to say, after today. Really, truly.
I appreciate that.
For this space and for creating and holding space for respectful discourse. Really. Yeah,
I appreciate that. That's what I want to show. I'm never trying to talk down or I'm only trying to elevate people.
Yeah.
But I get
also, sorry, while I say that, I also would really, really love to see more people of my strain on your show.
Yeah, I think I will. So my thing is to get a diverse group of people in everything, in sports. Like, this podcast isn't just like a Hawaiian cultural podcast. Yeah. Like, I like talking about that stuff, but like if I talk about that every time, I'm like,
I know it gets not
like
boring,
I want to talk about other stuff. Like,
of course,
I have other interests in life.
Yes, of course.
So that's what it is. So we have all kind. So it's always a mix of everything. Dang, oh my gosh, there's 2 more pages. Okay.
That's what I mean. You just have to like kind of filter through them. There's so many.
Okay. Let's see. Oh my gosh. Honestly, there's this deep dive. Please wear you so holly. Somebody says, Anuhea Okalani says, please, where are you so haole? You don't even know you haole lole for the interview.
Oh, one of our old designs.
Yeah. Oh, you had that?
Yeah, you saw haole.
Oh.
You didn't even know you haole.
That's so funny. Okay. Let me just scroll. Sorry, I'm gonna miss some questions because
No,
this
it's okay.
too long. Okay. I guess. I mean, we talked about this.
We talked about pretty much everything. I want to hear some of yours. What are your questions?
Here, I don't know if you want to just maybe you can just scroll to these last 3 pages,
Okay.
just in case there's something you want to talk. Just scroll this way.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I'll pull up the other ones, just in case there's anything you want to look at. So we're just looking right now, people. Hold up. Okay.
Oh no, I meant your questions that came up on your page.
No, yeah.
Oh,
I'm bringing that up, but if you wanted to, just in case we missed anything that you wanna. Okay. I have a few here.
Okay.
Let's change it a little bit. Slims says, what motivates you?
My lahui. Forever. My kakao on my face and on my hands stand for my 4 pillars that my entire life is built upon, which are Aina, Kupuna, Lahui, and Akua and Aumakua. So all the 4 things that push me to do every single thing in my life. I never feel burnt out, or not never feel burnt out, but I never feel weary of the kuleana I hold because of those 4 things, because I stand on those pillars.
Nice.
Yeah.
Stand on business, stand on pillars.
Yep, period.
This person's Vika Yo says, what does rest look like for you?
Ooh, I love that question. Rest is very, very far and in between for me because I'm so busy, so crazy busy. For me, rest is like once a year. I've started to take about a week or 2 week vacation. And that is like the only real vacation I get all year, pretty much, because just how our schedule is and how everything runs. So I will take like a 2 week break and like really splurge and make sure that it's something our entire family will enjoy and something that I can get a little bit of alone time by myself. It also looks like being really upkept on my spiritual hygiene. So making sure a lot of my cleansing rituals and routines are down pat so that I don't get overwhelmed. And then also really making sure that I have my support system is tight, because I could never do all the things that I do without them.
Nice.
For sure.
I like spiritual hygiene. That's cool. It's
spiritual
like,
hygiene.
We talk about physical health, mental health, hygiene, you know, dental hygiene,
we
spiritual
stay
hygiene.
Spiritually strapped.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. This next question comes from live.laugh.pizza. This person says, do you have an opinion on the Okina and Kahako?
Yes, I have a very strong. I just want to say I also brought that discourse to social media long before anybody else did. Okay. But I strongly believe that Okina and Kahako are getting in our way. I think that if you are a true fluent Hawaiian language speaker, you can use context clues. You don't need Okina and Kahako. Like we always say, they didn't have that in the New Pepa before because they could figure out, because everybody was such an expert speaker that they could figure out from context clues and from intonation and stuff like that, that we're lazy and we need Okina and Kahako like baby walkers to help us.
Cal Neesmith says training wheels.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly like that. I fully align and kako opiha that.
Yeah. That's funny you say that because you come from the academia.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
But then it's a great example of like you can just take what you want from both sides and like
exactly.
It's totally to agree with some things, disagree with some things.
And then again, like I said, I learned olalo from my ohana, from Kamehameha, from UH Manoa, and from UH Hilo. And I think it's almost like seeing all of those, and Kaliko, you know Kaliko, Trap.
Oh, Trap.
I think that's his last name.
Beamer Trap.
Yeah, is that what it is?
I think, unless I'm thinking of it. I know who it is though. Is that the British guy?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, okay. There we go.
I was gonna say the Haole one.
Yeah.
But I took I can't think what the name of it. It was like a linguistics Aloha Hawaii class, and oh my goodness, having him break it down like that in those terms and that blew my mind. That course blew my mind, and I recommend every Aloha Hawaii speaker take a class like that.
Yeah.
To break it down.
Super cool. Yeah. My parents just saw him a couple weeks ago in Hilo.
I love him. Yeah. Such a great guy. He's another great example of a poe that is not blood Hawaiian, but that is doing amazing things for our Lahu. Yeah.
I gotta maybe talk to him one day. I've been trying to get Lale, Kamana, all them.
Good luck.
Yeah. One day. Well, I'm their Haumana, so
I know. I'm just laughing because that guy, you know, I think I was taking one of his courses at Kahakaula kind of towards the end of I don't know if is he still teaching?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. And
when my brother was there in 2020, he was. So
towards the end, and he just was like, you know, he you can tell that he runs it there.
Yeah.
He just shows up and does his thing.
Oh, did you have Kumuhiapo?
Oh, my favorite.
He's the smartest man I know, but the scariest guy.
Get that guy on this podcast.
He's so scary.
He is, but I'm like goals. That is what I aim to be.
You met him as an adult. Imagine like seeing him as a kid.
Goals.
And like he's like, oh, goals. It's your turn to Haiolelo, and you're like.
Like seriously, I'm telling you, best kumu I had in college was Kumuhiapo for sure.
To me, he was like the most intimidating one.
Nuku meke aloha for sure. That guy.
He's the one that taught us like, oh, we don't like diss people. There's no swear words, but he's like, we would use sarcasm. Well, we would use sarcasm. Like if somebody's dumb, you'd be like, nani ko ike.
Kamali'i ike ole ike halupo. Like wow, you're so dumb. You don't even know the moons.
Yeah. Yep. That's so funny. Okay, and then Kale Aloha Ku'u Pu'uvai says, how is she such a hammer?
Lots of you gotta ask my father. I'm definitely get that from him.
Okay. Yeah, my our audience is a little nicer.
Well, I mean that makes sense because you're a little nicer than I am.
Well, to some people, they see me as a villain.
Oh, well, that's their own, their own projection for sure.
Okay. I think this one refers to maybe that post that you did recently. Rose_Bud_Love says, is it okay to leave High for education, or she wants us to be chained to the island forever?
It sounds like you already made your mind up, sis. But so I say that because like, I'm going to share my mana'o, of course, on the question, but to people like that have already made your mind up, go, for real, like for real kind. Like all jokes aside, please leave if you don't want to be here. Please don't. If you see it truly as a burden and you see it as this really hard, heavy thing that you have to carry, we won't miss you. Meke aloha. Do what you got to do to make yourself happy. Live your life. No cry later. And that's my mana'o on that. Okay,
awesome. Okay, this is the last one. This is, I guess, the only pushback, and we can both talk about this. We can both answer this. From Dr_Christina_689 says, why you got to be judgmental of other Hawaiians? Things you say are hurtful. Support others? ? And that's for you, but I feel like I can answer that as well because I feel like I'd probably get the same.
Okay, you go first.
Question.
You go first.
Sorry, let me bring it up again. Why I gotta be judgmental of others? If you know me, I'm probably the least judgmental person here. I really do not judge people. I like accept everybody. I understand from the clips it looks like that. But yeah, I'm not trying to be hurtful. I don't like violence. I don't like anything. I'd probably be closer to a pacifist than anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we should always support others, and we shouldn't be like bickering with each other, even if we disagree on how things should be done. I think like the term "agree to disagree," which I think Maluhia Kinimaka she commented on that viral post.
Yeah,
that was my favorite comment because she's a past podcast guest. I know her personally. She like gave her mana'o and said, while I agree with this, the victim mindset doesn't get you anywhere. And this is something that you shouldn't be saying. Respectfully agree to disagree. I think that's the best way to do things, in my opinion.
I think that's the most politically correct thing to do things, right?
Which I'm more so like keep the peace.
Yes.
So that's why, from my perspective.
Yeah, totally. No, I hear that, and it's great that we're both talking about this because I'm the exact opposite of you. I wouldn't say I'm judgmental, but I'm not gonna let. I'm not the kind of person that's like, oh, to keep the peace, I'm not gonna share what I think. And I think that I'm trying to pick my words carefully. The work that I do in accountability for Lahui is important. And people aren't always going to like it. And it's never going to be a comfortable space. And people are always going to say, well, who fucking died and made you king? Or why you? Okay, who's going to do it? Are you going to do it? No? Okay, then keep it pushing. Because there needs to be accountability in our Lahui. And there isn't any right now. And that's why everything is running rampant and things are totally falling to crumbs, is because there's no accountability, not just to each other, but self-accountability. What was it? Why do you always have to be judgmental? Why can't we support others? Because why am I gonna, and I know this is hard for people to digest, but why am I going to support like, in a not cocky way, my opinion means a lot in our community. So if I'm going to, for example, take a sponsorship from Shaka Tea, people are going to say, wow, Shaka Tea must be so good. They must be Aloha Aina. They must be ethically, run, stuff like that. Emma is supporting it. That means that she really knows what's best for Hawaiians. And we should follow her because that also is good for Hawaiians. And so when my opinion carries that kind of weight in our circles and in our lahui, it's important for me to not support everybody, but support things that are aligned with what people are trusting me with. The sovereignty of our future of Hawaii, working towards food sustainability, working towards community meeting spaces and bridging the gap between generations and things like that, right? That people kind of expect me to do at this point. So if I'm expected to do that kind of work, I'm not able to do that kind of work unless I can discern, unless I can filter, unless I can work through, this person will be very helpful to the lahui in this place. This person, and the only way that I can do that is by taking it in as a whole and saying, okay, well, here's some pros, here's some cons. And to some people that might be judgment, but to me, that's like, how can we all work together best to get the big goal, right? And so that's another one where it's like, can we put our ego on the side? Can we look, one thing that Jade shared with me was, can we look past the hurt for the better good? Can we take the accountability from somebody and say, damn, I really messed up. I shouldn't have said that, or I should have done this. Instead of saying, oh my God, my feelings are hurt. I am gonna go on a rampage and like blast this person all over Instagram. I think that's like the key is, can we look past the hurt? Can we look past our ego and say like, what needs to happen for the greater good right now?
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think we're almost alike in the sense where I got to a point where like, I don't care. I'll voice my opinion, but I guess I'm not that guy. And that's why it's like, oh, wow, this guy's just saying all kind of things. So maybe I'll just revert into my peaceful monk stage now.
Yes, Kamaka, that's a good place for you.
Keep it aloha.
Yes, the Keep It Aloha pod. Yeah. And again, really grateful to you for opening up this space and holding this space for somebody like me that because I'm so radical, because I'm such an angry Hawaiian, because I'm so opinionated, and even more, I'm an opinionated woman, and even more, I'm an opinionated brown woman. So nobody ever wants to fucking listen to me, you know? And I've got the platform that I do, but mahalo for sharing your greater platform to really share an authentic, genuine piece of Hawaii and not just like the over fetishized, romanticized version of Hawaii that we're used to seeing on great social media.
Yeah, no ukaha oli. Yeah, this is what Hawaii looks like these days.
Also, yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, mahalo everybody for the social media questions. Make sure you listen for our next guest, and maybe your question will make it on the podcast. We have a couple more minutes. I just want to make sure I ask you, because I asked all of my guests about keeping it aloha, and we talked about it in your life. How do you keep it aloha?
How do I keep it aloha? To me, keeping it aloha in my life is regulating these streets. I mean that by making sure that my kids and your kids and their kids have a safe place to play, and not just safe like physically, but like an intellectually safe place, an emotionally safe place. I create and hold that space for our people gladly forever. And to me, that is how I keep it aloha, is by holding that space.
Yes, keeping it real.
Yep, period.
Yeah, that's why I said there's definitely different meanings of aloha, and to me, that's one of it, is keeping it real.
Yes.
Which I've been trying to keep it real, but maybe a little bit too real.
Yes. Yes.
Maybe just don't say that anymore. Maybe off the podcast with friends in safe space.
Yeah.
Okay. What is your life hack before you end the podcast?
I was thinking about this one a lot. My life hack is ho'i'i kapiko. That is like one of my most frequented sayings. Ho'i'i kapiko means to return to your source. Our kupuna had the answers for everything you could think of, things that we didn't even think of yet, things that we couldn't even conceptualize yet. They figured out. So if we ho'i'i kapiko, return to our source, look at ways that our kupuna solved problems, look at similar issues that our kupuna had in their communities and how they worked through them, even just looking at the processes and the protocols, are ho'i'i kapiko answers for us. So I believe everything you need to know is here already as a Hawaiian. You just got to dig deep, and you got to ho'i'i kapiko, and whatever that looks like in your household, I'm thankful for.
I love that. I always love the idea of looking back to move
go forward. Yes, that's a very Hawaii thinking for sure.
Yeah. It's what we were taught growing up.
Yep.
Okay, so these are just my last fast fave 5 questions. These are just rapid fire answers.
Okay.
Favorite childhood snack?
Mountain apple.
Oh, nice. Right from the yard. Favorite place to vacation?
Japan.
Nice. I was just there. Favorite historical figure?
Ooh. Hanani K Trask.
Favorite place to eat on island?
My dad's.
What
My
kind of
dad's
food?
cooking
What's
beef
the
stew.
food?
His beef stew.
Okay, nice. And favorite Hawaiian word?
Ooh, mi kololehua.
What is that?
It's like
yeah.
it's like I don't even know how to explain it in English, but it's basically like the pueko and the puana of your olelo Hawaii and how it like mi kololehua.
It sounds like such
beautiful.
a pretty word.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just pretty much like that feeling of that olelo in your ears and like the correct puana and pueko of olelo and the flow of it all.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. When
Nani
you puana,
kololehua.
it's like mi kololehua.
Yeah, right? It's like a dance.
Mi kololehua. Mi kololehua. Okay.
Nani.
Awesome. Well, that's all we have for you today. Mahalo so much for coming here and bringing your aloha and your mana'o and ike, all of that to this podcast. I think it was much needed even for myself. And is there anything you want to share with the audience before we wrap up? If not, tell us where we can find you.
No, just a huge mahalo again to you for opening up this space and like I said, creating and holding space for Hawaiians in Hawaii. moonkindthings.com, at moonkindthings on TikTok and Instagram. I do have a Patreon also that's in my bio on Instagram. And I do have a podcast, like I said, Moonkind Things on Spotify or Apple. We are kind of in a transition period right now, so we don't have too much new stuff going on, but summer and end of summer, keep an eye out for us.
Okay, we'll link all of that in the details of the episode, so make sure you go check it out. And again, this was great. It's therapeutic.
Yes.
We'll get you out so you can head to wherever you're heading. Just want to say mahalo, Emma, for joining us on the Keep It Aloha podcast. Spread love, be kind to one another, and mahalo for listening to us today. We have new episodes every Thursday, so make sure you follow us and leave a review. I'm your host, Kamaka. Remember to always keep it aloha.
Ahui ho.
Okay.